Chapter 921. As for Editor-in-Chief Zhou, she didn't know what had happened after she lent the phone to Yu Lily. Yu Lily was in a good mood after she implanted the virus and dragged Shin Manting's phone number out of the blacklist. Editor-in-Chief Zhou only knew that Yu Lily had helped her stay in Eurasian Comics, so she was grateful to Yu Lily. Shin Manting also knew that Editor-in-Chief Zhou framed her, but she wouldn't burn the fire of war on Yu Lily. She killed with a borrowed knife, but she didn't get involved. Yu Lily was in a good mood. Looking at the little fur ball, Yu Lily took it off and put it in the drawer. Returning the phone to Editor-in-Chief Zhou, Yu Lily could easily see the current status of Shin Manting's phone through the computer. It's broken. In order to stop the phone from ringing, she actually broke the phone. That's amazing. But it doesn't matter, I still have a backup plan. After entering Shin Manting's number, Yu Lily quickly set up the location. Even if Shin Manting's phone was destroyed, the number should not be changed. From now on, I just have to wait for the rabbit. Sure enough, Shin Manting's phone number was turned back on in the evening. But obviously, it had changed to a different device. This model looked good on the outside, but fortunately, it didn't use the best security system. After Yu Lily locked the number, she hacked into the phone. There were many social platforms that were bound to this phone number. Yu Lily directly hacked into WeChat and scanned the address book. After thinking about it, she exited and opened a software that was rarely used by ordinary people, but it was necessary. After hacking, she installed a monitoring virus in it. Isn't she monitoring me? Then let me have a taste of being monitored. But unfortunately, Shin Manting seemed to have a party after work, eating and sleeping, and there seemed to be nothing else to listen to. When talking to her best friend, there were many black spots. Several times Yu Lily heard it and laughed. However, it was useless. Yu Lily called Su Cheng and pleaded for Editor-in-Chief Zhou without any integrity. As expected, just after Editor-in-Chief Zhou was almost fired, Yu Lily's life became much better. The next day, Yu Lily finished the last frame and gave the drawing to Sissai. However, Sissy still didn't know that Yu Lily was Li Xiaoyu. When Sissy saw the drawing, she was stunned. Looking at the style of the drawing and the idea of the plot, she asked, "Did you draw all this yourself? Your own original design?" Yu Lily, yes. Based on her own story, Yu Lily painted an orphan who went astray and then met a domineering president. However, comics were still comics. Yu Lily tried her best to beautify the details and facts. The first episode was about the meeting of the male and female leads. The name of the comic was Transactional Love. The male lead was called Xiao and the female lead was called Li Xiaoyu. The title of the first episode was Dirty Deals. Yu Lily could clearly see that Yi Qianshan was reading the comic, but she didn't say anything. Chapter 922. Yi Qianshan's excitement soon aroused the curiosity of other colleagues. They gathered around and asked, "What's going on?" Yi Qianshan mysteriously closed the comic and said, "I feel like I've picked up a treasure. I've recruited an amazing artist, and it's even an original work. No, I'm going to use this as a promotional comic." As he spoke, he clicked open the chat box with Li Xiaoyu and sent her a message. "Sissai, when can you give me the second episode?" Yu Lily silently clicked on the chat box and replied to a message. "I draw very slowly and it will take about a week. Sissai, the quality is really good. I plan to make your comic the main comic. I will promote it first. Can you give me the second episode as soon as possible?" Yu Lily, yes. They happily reached an agreement, and Yi Qianshan did things without hesitation. In an instant, he had contacted all the departments and started to promote the comic. Because it was a new website, there were not many high-quality comics received. As soon as the comic was launched, the promotion forum and Weibo immediately exploded. The technical department was surprised to find that in less than 24 hours, the number of downloads was tens of thousands higher than usual. There was a huge cheer in the office for a while. Yu Lily saw it and was also ecstatic. On the third day, Yi Qianshan told Yu Lily, "The promotion effect is better than expected." "Amazing." Yu Lily, hey, thank you. "Sissai, the company has decided to give you a gift. What do you want?" Yu Lily, "A digital screen. My current digital screen is second-hand, and it often runs out of power and lags. If possible, can you give me a new digital screen?" Sissai, "Okay, give me the address." Yu Lily directly sent the address. Yi Qianshan saw the address and was a little surprised. She said, "Hey, I found that the author of Love Transaction lives in Kingstown. It's so close. It's only half an hour from here. Wow, it's also a rich area. This location is so expensive." Yu Lily looked down at the contract and pretended not to hear. Shan Yu passed by Yu Lily with a cup of coffee in her hand. She looked up and saw a chat box with Sisai on the desktop of Lily's computer. She looked down and saw that Lily had sent an address to Zixixi. But before Shan Yu could see what it was, Lily turned it off. Lily turned her head and looked over. Shan Yu smiled at her and walked away with her coffee. Shan Yu felt a little strange and glanced at Yi Chanshan's computer next to her. However, Yi Chanshan had already closed the chat box, so Shan Yu didn't see anything. However, he felt that it was a little strange. What is the relationship between Lily and Yi Chanshan? My period came suddenly, but it left slowly. On the 6th day after her period came, she finally showed signs of leaving. Lily made herself a cup of milk tea and sat in front of the computer to read her comics. But after looking at it for a long time, he was a little tired of it. He picked up his cell phone and opened Shin Manting's cell phone. The other side seemed to be on the phone. Lily turned on the speaker and took a sip of milk tea. Chapter 923. How could that be? Wedding dresses are designed to keep you warm. You just need to be a good bride. Lily's brain buzzed. The wedding date is set. On the 23rd of December? Isn't that soon? It's already the end of November on the lunar calendar. It's too fast, how could it be? It's so sudden. Lily wasn't prepared at all. Besides, didn't Ming say that he would marry her? He would marry her because he didn't like Shin Manting, did he? What? Why didn't he make it clear to me? Did Ming count as having a foot in two boats? Lily, who had been in a good mood, suddenly collapsed. She looked at the time. It was past 8 o'clock in the evening. However, Ming hadn't come back yet. She called Ming. Ming seemed to be very busy. Many people were talking in English. Hello? Ming, are you home? I'll be late. I'm still busy. Go to bed early. Okay. Lily hung up the phone and sighed. She packed up the manga and threw it to Sisai. She went to bed early. When Ming came back, it was already midnight. Lily didn't want to talk to him. She was going to ask him about it the next day, but when she woke up the next day, she found that he had gone out again. The position next to her was still warm, but she couldn't touch him. However, it was worth celebrating that when the second episode of Love Transaction was released, it ignited the craze of chasing the latest chapters. Because of such a comic, the traffic of Eurasian comics reached an all-time high, and Yi Chanshan became a hero in the company. All the colleagues and employees of the company went out to party, singing, drinking and playing dice. Lily was a very open person, so she played with Yi Chanshan. However, Yi Chanshan's drinking capacity was very poor, and she lost a lot of times when playing dice. The first few times Yi Chanshan drank all the dice, but soon she couldn't stand it. Later, Lily helped her drink a few glasses and then they got drunk together. Yi Chanshan asked her sister to pick her up, but she waited in the room for a long time, but she didn't come. He was furious. When he tried to call Yi Yuyu, the call didn't go through even once. Lily had a good tolerance for alcohol, so she could handle it. After sending Yi Chanshan back, she took a taxi home. Back home, Ming sat in the living room working. When he saw her come back stinking of alcohol, he frowned with dissatisfaction. He closed the computer, frowned and asked, "Why did you drink so much?" Lily did drink a little too much, but for Lily this level only made her a little dizzy. When she saw Ming, Lily rushed over to him and shouted, "Ming, I'm back." He caught her firmly with both hands and held her in his arms. As soon as he lowered his head, he could smell the smell of cigarettes and alcohol on her. Smelling it, he felt even more dissatisfied and asked, "How much did you drink?" Chapter 924. Ming picked her up and said helplessly, "Yes, I will. I think so too, but I can't tell them. If I tell them, they will look at me differently. What if they all fall in love with me? What will you do then?" Yulai giggled and put his arms around Ming's neck, grinning brightly. Ming was also amused by her and walked toward the room with her in his arms. Lily habitually hugged him and kissed him, saying, "Ming, what do you think our relationship is now?" The ancients said that alcohol could boost one's courage. The sentence was really true. If Lily had said such a sentence in the past, she would not have dared to say it. But now she said it so naturally. However, it was also after she said it that Lily felt that something was wrong. Ming looked at her, and there was an obscure light in his beautiful peach blossom eyes that Lily could not understand. Seeing the change in Ming's eyes, Lily's heartbeat involuntarily accelerated. This issue was a bit sensitive. Lily had never known what their relationship was. They lived under the same roof, but they were not husband and wife. On the surface they seemed to be together, but he still had a fiancée waiting in the open. It was impossible to say that she did not mind. Lily was actually a very possessive person. Although she did not say it, she actually cared about it more than anyone else. But so what? Lily still did not dare to say it. She was afraid. She was afraid that Ming would think that she was too nosy and talk to her like before in the capital. Every word that came out of his mouth was like the sharpest of thorns, stabbing into her heart and making her feel pain. At that time, Lily was afraid that she could not help but want to escape, so she simply ignored it. She wanted to stay by Ming's side even as a lover. As long as she was with him, Lily looked at Ming with a pair of eyes a little drunk and said with a smile, "Forget it, you don't have to answer, I know." Ming lowered his eyes and his eyes became deeper. He gently put her on the bed and lowered his head to kiss her. The smell of beer came, but Ming did not dislike it at all. He gently kissed her and gradually moved down. Lily raised her hands, crossed her legs and closed her eyes. She actually fell asleep? Seeing her like this, Ming chuckled. He helped her take off her coat and sweater, tucked her in and planted a kiss on her forehead. He turned off the lights, turned around and walked out to continue working. Not long after Ming left, Lily suddenly opened her eyes. She got up and found some clothes to take a shower. By the time he finished showering, half an hour had already passed. Ming leaned against the headboard and watched her walk out. He waved at her and said, "Come here." Lily obediently walked over. Her cheeks were still a little hot, with the obvious red of alcohol. "Do you know who I am?" "My man." Lily smiled and leaned over to hug him. When Ming heard those 3 words, he was in a good mood. He held her in his arms and asked, "Have you left?" "Well?" Lily pretended to be confused and hesitated. She knew what he was asking. She left, but she did not want to. After some hesitation, he shook his head and said, "No." Chapter 925. Lily was so directly exposed that she was a little embarrassed. She shrank her neck and pretended to be confused. "What did you say?" Still pretending. Ming directly lowered his head, lifted her clothes and bit her. "You are asking for a beating," Lily exclaimed. She blushed and said, "You are so annoying." "I am annoying?" Ming's actions became more rough. He sucked her neck hard and asked vaguely, "Why do you hate me?" Aware of his actions, Lily felt even more bored. She half closed her eyes and said, "I'm sleepy." Ming's action stopped. He looked at her with a pair of burning eyes and said, "Then you go to sleep." Lily really closed her eyes and ignored Ming. Ming was a little unhappy. He teased everywhere, but Lily really closed her eyes and did not give him any response. "Stop it. I'm so sleepy." Lily reached out and patted him. Ming's eyes became darker. Lily suddenly opened her eyes wide and clamped her legs. She shouted, "What are you doing?" Lily only felt disgusted and shouted, "You are so dirty. Don't do this." Ming did not listen to her. He kissed her a few times, but Lily struggled even more. Lily struggled with her legs and shouted, "Ming, you are so disgusting. I don't like it. I don't like it at all." Ming was a little annoyed. He pushed his body up, pinched her face and lowered his head to kiss her. Lily felt even more disgusted. He had just kissed her there, how could it be? Lily didn't know whether it was because of the alcohol or something else, but her stomach was tumbling. After pushing him away, she retched. Ming's eyelids twitched and he was furious. He straightened her legs, turned her face back with his big hand and said, "What do you mean?" Lily's stomach was full of anger. Being twisted by him, she couldn't struggle. Lily's face turned red and she turned her head and vomited. The vomit flowed down her cheek and onto Ming's hand. Ming's face became more and more gloomy. This woman actually vomited. After he let go of her, Lily couldn't hold it in any longer. She lay on the edge of the bed and retched. It was full of the smell of wine. Ming frowned deeply. Looking at Lily's appearance, he pulled up his clothes and walked away. Bang! The door was slammed shut, and Lily suddenly shivered. Wiping the corner of her mouth, Lily got up, opened the door and walked out, only to see Ming slam the door. Bang! The sound of the door slamming made Lily freeze in place. He seemed to be really angry. What to do? Lily knew very well that she didn't want to vomit because she drank too much, but because of his touch. Under the influence of alcohol, Lily couldn't help herself. What to do? She seemed to have angered him. Ming felt a little scared. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He was afraid that he would strangle her to death in a fit of rage. After staying in the hotel for a night, Ming got up early the next morning and headed home. Chapter 926. Ming's heart seemed to be pinched by something and his heart was aching. He went forward and gently pushed her, shouting, You Lily was sleepy. When she looked up, she saw O Ming's face. Only then did O Ming see her face clearly, and his heart ached even more fiercely. Yu Lily's eyes were swollen like walnuts. When she first saw him, she pursed her lips and burst into tears. Yu Lily rushed forward and shouted, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Yu Lily held his waist with her hands and her head arched against his chest. With a weak cry, she held him tightly. She was afraid. Afraid of what? However, unconsciously, O Ming's mood, which had been depressed all night, quietly relaxed. He helped her up and Yu Lily felt pain all over her body. Being pulled by him, the pain was so painful that she gasped. O Ming touched her face and found that her body was frighteningly cold. He was a little angry and said, Don't tell me that you stayed here all night? Get dressed. O Ming's face was ugly. He pulled her up and said, Get dressed and I'll take you to see a doctor. As he spoke, he walked her into the room. Yu Lily was pulled and her body was cold. Today is Saturday. Many experts should not be at work. And I don't want to go to the hospital. Go to see a psychiatrist. O Ming pushed her into the room, then went to the cloakroom to find her coat and said, Go directly to the doctor, not the hospital. Psychiatrist? Yes. O Ming's movement stopped, and subconsciously thought of the last time he was in the capital. He was depressed and said, Sexual apathy is also caused by psychological factors. Luo Zhan's brother is a psychiatrist. Although he is a little romantic, he is more reliable at critical moments. Luo Zhan has a brother? Yu Lily looked at him with a blank face. Well, get dressed and I'll call him. Luo Rant's annual leave was over, and during this time he ate, played, and had fun. It was not easy to go back to work, but he was tired after 2 days. He was lying in the room when Luo Zhan woke him up. He almost slapped him. Luo Zhan avoided him easily, smiled and said, Big brother, there is business, private work. Do you still remember O Ming? O Ming? Hearing this name, Luo Ran immediately got up from the bed. O Ming? Yes, my good friend, the young master of the O group, is very rich. Luo Ran came to his senses and lit a cigarette. He was a little surprised. Why is he looking for me? I don't know. You'll know when he comes. Anyway, he will pay a lot of money. You have to take a good look at him. Just as he finished speaking, the doorbell rang. Luo Ran's eyes widened as he roared and threw a punch. *CK. So fast. Are you trying to trick me? Luo Zhan quickly dodged and said, I'll open the door. Yu Lily walked in with O Ming, and Luo Zhan immediately saw her swollen eyes. Shaking his head, Luo Zhan opened the door and let them in. He shouted, Brother, they are here. Luo ran. Chapter 927. When Yu Lily saw Luo Ran, she was a little surprised. At the same time, she turned to look at Luo Zhan and exclaimed, Twins! Yes. Luo Zhan touched his nose, pulled his casual loose pants, and glanced at Luo Ran's handsome tight leather coat, nodded and said, Twins! Yu Lily was speechless. The gap was a little big. What's the matter? Luo Ran looked at Yu Lily, and there was an unruly smile on his face. Do you feel uncomfortable? Yu Lily looked at him, then looked at Luo Zhan and whispered, I seem to be sexually apathetic. Luo Ran was a little surprised, looked at O Ming, raised his eyebrows and asked, Sexually apathetic? O Ming nodded. Luo Ran turned and walked in, then said to Yu Lily, Come with me. Luo Ran led Yu Lily to a room which was empty. The 4 walls were painted particularly white, and there were only 2 stools and a table inside. Luo Ran sat behind the table, pointed to the stool in front of the table and said, Sit down. Yu Lily sat down and looked at Luo Ran. Luo Ran quickly got into character and said, Next, I will ask you a few questions and you must answer me as soon as possible. You can't be shy and you must answer truthfully. Okay. What's your name? Luo Ran's tone was a little fast. When Yu Lily heard this question, she couldn't help but be excited and she answered, Yu Lily. How old are you? 24 years old. What work are you doing now? Assistant editor, drawing comics. How long have you been working? More than half a month. Are you happy? Not bad. Luo Ran looked at her and asked faster, When did you have sex for the first time? Yu Lily was stunned, paused and then said, My 18th birthday. Is it your current man? Yes. Are you sexually apathetic? Yes. When did it start? I don't know. When did you find it? Last month. After discovering sexual apathy, have you had sex? Yes. How many times? Yu Lily thought carefully and said, 3. 4 times? Be sure. 4 times. Have you had orgasms? Once? Only once. Yes. Do you feel uncomfortable when you have sex? You asked. Do you feel? Do you feel? What? 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 Lily paused and shook her head. I don't know. Everything has a reason and there is a cause and effect. Luo Ran held an hourglass in his hand and spun it quickly. He asked casually, think about it. Why do you feel disgusted? Time. But Lily, and had you had time? Jin, you. Luo Ran asked her. He put down the hourglass and took out a pocket watch as if by magic. After popping the cover of the pocket watch, he looked at her calmly. When was the last time you had an orgasm? You Lu. Li at Luo Yu. And said. You Lily Luo Yin. And looked at Li and said. Chapter 928. When Yu Lily heard that, she answered honestly, I broke up with Oming more than 4 years ago. You haven't had a boyfriend in 4 years? No. Don't you think it's a little unfair? I only had one man. Luo Ran laughed with a teasing look in his eyes. Yu Lily looked up at him and asked, why would it be unfair? Wouldn't it be unfair to go out and mess around? Luo Ran heard such an answer and laughed out loud. Don't you want to try other men? Brother, don't poach me, okay? Be professional, okay? Luo Zhan's voice came in with a warning. Obviously he was threatened by Oming. Yu Lily heard it and laughed out loud. Luo Ran stopped flirting and coughed softly. To be honest, I'm a psychology major, but I'm not an expert in this area. However, I happen to have a classmate from the capital. Why don't I ask my friend to take a look at you? Friend? Yu Lily blinked and nodded. As Luo Ran spoke, he had already picked up the phone and called the legendary friend. Old Shin, there is a private job here. Do you want to take it? The other party is a great beauty. Okay, I'll wait for you. At my house. Well, I'll wait for you. Well, bye. Oming looked at the movement inside from the outside and felt a little strange. He looked at Luo Zhan and asked, is your brother serious? Are you sure he is a professional? Hearing Oming's doubt, Luo Zhan nodded seriously and said, my brother is an expert in his current hospital. There are many people who ask him to see them, but he specializes in things like autism in children. Anyway, he doesn't seem to have much to do with this. Hearing that, Oming still had some doubts and looked at him. Luo Zhan shrugged and said, don't worry. If my brother says there is no problem, then there must be no problem. Oming was skeptical. He looked inside thoughtfully and said, I hope so. About 15 minutes later, the doorbell rang. As soon as he heard it, Luo Zhan knew it must be the expert. He hurried to open the door. As soon as he opened the door, he saw a pink dress. When the expert saw Luo Zhan, he smiled brightly and said, hey old classmate, we meet again. Luo Zhan was scared by his enthusiasm and quickly waved his hand. But before he spoke, he heard the expert say, but why is your taste getting worse and worse? You used to dress like this at home? Luo Zhan, a critical hit of 100,000 points. It's you? Oming's voice was surprised. The man in the pink suit looked at Oming and seemed to be a little happy. He said, hey, why is my brother-in-law here? Did you want to watch today? But I heard that the other party is a great beauty. Oming's face darkened. He looked at him and said, your sister and I are not married yet. Don't call me that too early. Perhaps he would just dump her. Shinjilia shook his head and said, that's not interesting. When your father asked our family for help, that's not what he said. He said that he would agree to any condition. You're already engaged to my sister. How can you run away now? Ming, Shin said. Shin, how T what? Shin, you, Shin, T. Chapter 929. That's my brother. Luo Ran yawned and said, come on, the patient is inside. Yu Lily clearly heard the movement outside, especially when she heard Shinjilia call Oming brother-in-law. She had already guessed a little. Then the sound of leather shoes came from behind, and the footsteps were different from Oming's. Obviously it was the expert who had just come. When Shinjilia saw Yu Lily, he was both expected and surprised. When he saw Oming, Shinjilia had already guessed that the patient was likely to be Yu Lily. But after all, he was good at solving psychological problems between men and women. Did Yu Lily have psychological problems? Shinjilia walked over, looked at Yu Lily and raised his eyebrows with a smile. It's a small world, miss you. I didn't expect that we are not only neighbors, but also friends of each other's friends. The world is really small. Yu Lily felt a little guilty about Shinjilia. After all, when she was in the capital, she cheated him of a lot of money. Although Shinjilia didn't seem to want to retaliate, what if? Hearing his words, Yu Lily felt even more guilty. She stood up, looked at Luo Ran and asked, "Is this the expert you mentioned?" "Yes." Luo Ran nodded. "Although he is young, he is a psychopath. Now he has graduated from the master's degree in psychology and is studying for a doctorate, right?" Shinjilia nodded, looked at Yu Lily and said with great interest, "Miss Yu, if you doubt me, you can go to Jinghua University in the capital to check my information. You are welcome to verify my identity. This is my business card." Yu Lily took it and glanced at it. "It seems that he can really bluff people. But before you verify my identity, Luo Ran, can you briefly tell me about this lady's condition?" Shinjilia looked at Luo Ran. Luo Ran played with a pocket watch in his hand, leaned on the table and briefly explained what he had just asked Yu Lily. Yu Lily always felt that Shinjilia was a little unreliable. After all, people who could be deceived by bartenders were not very smart. What's more, Yu Lily felt that this man was shameless enough to chase after a girl. Most importantly, he was her neighbor and Shin Manting's younger brother. In case he wanted to do something to her, it would be too convenient. Yu Lily didn't like this feeling. She looked at Shinjilia and Luo Ran, stood up and said, "Why don't I go to the hospital on Monday? At most I can take a day off. I still think it's too troublesome." It was obvious that she didn't want Shinjilia to see it. Yu Lily's intentions made Luo Ran feel a little embarrassed. After all, Shinjilia was called over by Luo Ran. Wasn't it obvious that he wasn't giving Luo Ran any face? He shrugged and said, "It doesn't matter. Anyway, I have a lecture at Kingstown Psychology University on Monday. If you are interested, you can come and listen." "Sit down." Oming walked in and pressed Yu Lily down. He said, "Although this guy doesn't look very reliable, he is still a professional person. I don't think he will mess around. Isn't that right, Jilia?" Chapter 930. Yu Lily was a little hesitant, but when she looked up and saw Oming's expression, she still sat down. Shinjilia saw that she finally cooperated. After driving all the people away, he looked at Yu Lily. Yu Lily found that they might have occupational diseases. Luo Ran liked to play with a pocket watch while Shinjilia played with a lighter. Shinjilia even put his legs on the table, and his shoes slanted toward Yu Lily, which made her feel a little uncomfortable. Is this guy really reliable? Yu Lily was very doubtful. Shinjilia leaned back in the chair and asked, "I heard that after you found out that you were frigid, you had an orgasm?" Yu Lily didn't know why, but when it came from Luo Ran's mouth, she didn't feel anything. But when it came from Shinjilia, she felt that it was a little erotic and a little dirty. When Shinjilia saw Yu Lily's expression, he knew that she had a psychological barrier with him. He chuckled and said, "Don't think of me as Shinjilia. Just think of me as an ordinary doctor. Answer me." After thinking about it, Yu Lily nodded and said, "Yes." "Under what circumstances did you have it?" "Last time after Oming was drunk." "Damn, he could still do it when he was drunk." "I'm convinced." Shinjilia threw the lighter from one hand to the other, raised his eyebrows and said, "Under what circumstances? For example, did he say anything or make you feel very comfortable?" "Make you feel very comfortable." Yu Lily always felt that Shinjilia wanted to hit on her. Although it might be wishful thinking, facing a man of such identity, Yu Lily still felt very embarrassed. Really, very embarrassed. Shinjilia laughed and waved his hand. Okay, let's change the way." Yu Lily looked at him. Shinjilia took out a handkerchief from the left pocket of his chest. It was a beautiful checkered handkerchief with a faint smell of perfume. Shinjilia folded the handkerchief in front of her and said, "This is a handkerchief. I will use it to cover your eyes. From now on you can't see me. So, don't feel embarrassed or shy because you know me. I'm a doctor, that's all." Yu Lily nodded. Then, Shinjilia walked over and covered her eyes with the handkerchief. "Now answer my question just now. Under what circumstances did you have your last orgasm? Did your boyfriend say something that moved you or did something that made you feel comfortable?" Yu Lily quickly replied. "He confessed to me." "What did he say?" "He said he loved me very much. That was the first time he said something like that to me. He was drunk at the time, so it must be true." "Do you believe in the truth after drinking?" "Trust me." "Then why did you come to see a doctor now? Could it be that you can't do it after that time?" Yu Lily was silent for a moment and said, "After that time I had my period, so I didn't do it for a few days. Last night? We had a party at the company and I drank a little too much. After I came back and took a shower, he wanted to, but I vomited. Were you drunk last night?" Chapter 931. Do you hate that kind of feeling? Do you feel very stressed? Yes. Why? Shinjilia looked at her and asked. Yu Lili was silent and did not answer. Shinjilia took the opportunity to ask, everything has a cause and effect. You have been with him for so many years. If you really hate him, you won't be with him, right? Yu Lili still did not speak. Shinjilia walked slowly behind Yu Lili and asked softly, do you love him? Yes. Without hesitation. When O Ming, who was outside, heard these words, his heart swayed and he immediately felt refreshed. She loved him. But why do you hate him? Shinjilia removed the handkerchief from her face and sat on the edge of the table. He looked at her and said, you don't like his touch. There must be a reason for that. But why is that? The reason? It should be because I heard that his wedding was coming the night before yesterday. But can I say it? Tell them that I planted a monitoring virus in Shin Manting's mobile phone? That's why I know all this. Can I say it like that? Obviously I can't. Yu Lili opened her mouth, but in the end she did not say a word. Shinjilia saw her hesitation. Then he stood up, walked to the back of the table and said, it doesn't matter. Everyone has secrets. It doesn't matter if you don't tell me. While speaking, Shinjilia turned on the lighter in his hand and clicked it. Immediately, a blue flame jumped out. Yu Lili looked at the lighter and was fascinated by the blue flame. What a beautiful flame. It was the first time that Yu Lili had seen a flame that was all blue. Shinjilia waved the lighter in his hand and said with a smile, it's just like how you used to cheat people in the capital. I didn't blame you for that, did I? Yu Lili felt guilty and coughed slightly, but her eyes couldn't help but look at the lighter in Shinjilia's hand. The blue flame jumped on his fingertips, and when it swept across the air, it seemed to be ignited in the air. Gorgeous and blurred, so beautiful. Shinjilia's eyes seemed to be filled with the same misty blue flame. He looked at her and smiled. She saw him toss the lighter in his hand and ask, do you like it? Yu Lili looked at the blue flame, her eyes a little empty, and nodded. I like it. I'll let you play with it. Come catch. Shinjilia threw the lighter in his hand. When Yu Lili saw the blue flame flying toward her, she subconsciously stretched out her hands and caught the lighter in her palms. Beautiful. Moreover, it wasn't hot at all. Shinjilia stepped forward and said in a seductive voice, go and touch the fire. Is it very comfortable? Yes. It's cold, right? Yes. Yu Lili's eyes became more and more empty. She looked at the blue flame that was jumping in front of her, and her eyes were full of fascination. Luo Zhan, Luo Ran, and O Ming were standing outside. They all saw Yu Lili raise her hand and hold a piece of nothingness. There was nothing. However, she still had a stunned and intoxicated look on her face, which made them feel a little strange. It was obvious that Yu Lili had been hypnotized. Chapter 932. They spoke in a low voice and the people inside did not hear them. Shinjilia held the lighter in his hand, looked at her and said with a charming voice, in this flame, you see your favorite person. Who is it? O Ming. Yes, he's looking at you from inside. He's smiling at you. He's walking towards you. Yu Lili smiled and looked ahead, but her eyes were a little empty. O Ming, who was in front of her, walked toward her. He was tall and slender in a burgundy straight suit. With a smile in his beautiful eyes, he walked towards her and bent down. She didn't realize that the person standing in front of her was Shinjilia. Yu Lili reached out to the person in front of her and whispered, hold me. O Ming saw Yu Lili like this and he felt very uncomfortable. He was about to go in but he was stopped by Luo Ran. Don't worry, he is a doctor. Let's go outside. Luo Zhan also agreed. Looking at O Ming, Luo Zhan was really afraid that he would suddenly rush in, so he said, yes, O Ming, let's go outside and wait. If you suddenly rush in and do something in this hypnosis, maybe your woman will go crazy. It was a little exaggerated to make her crazy, but O Ming couldn't gamble with Yu Lili. Looking at the situation inside, O Ming nodded and followed Luo Zhan and Luo ran out. Shinjilia clearly noticed that they had left, so he was more relaxed. He reached out to Yu Lili and said, I am O Ming. Yes, O Ming. Yu Lili put her hands around his waist and looked up at him. What are you most afraid of? Shinjilia gently stroked her face with his palm. Yu Lili pouted, and her eyes immediately turned red. She said, you scolded me. What did I scold you for? You scolded me for being a bitch, for being a prostitute. Yu Lili's voice was filled with tears. She held Shinjilia's waist, but soon she looked up and pushed him away. Shinjilia's eyes suddenly darkened and he took 2 steps back. He tentatively said, bitch, are you a prostitute again? The face in front of her, which was a little blurred, suddenly became clear. It's him, it's O Ming. When Yu Lili heard that, she felt even more wronged. She cried out, I didn't. Is it painful? What was the most painful thing I've ever done to you? What was it? Do you still remember? Shinjilia looked at her. I once made you suffer even more. Have you forgotten? Lily felt her mind was in chaos and her head was aching. When Shinjilia saw this, he seized the opportunity to ask, I did something very overboard to you. I made you feel so much pain that you wanted to die. What was that about? Lily frowned and felt a headache. She shook her head and shouted, I don't know. You knew, but you didn't want to remember it. You purposely forgot about it. In order to stay by his side, you selectively lost your memory during this painful moment. This was the main reason why she was mentally ill. Shinjilia had already found out that she had indeed lost a portion of her memory. This memory caused her great pain. But what was going on? Lily's head felt like it had been run over by a big truck. It seemed that it was about to explode. Was there such a thing? Chapter 933. My head hurts. Lily stopped crying and her mood was even calmer than before. She sat on the chair with her head in her hands and stared at the front. Shinjilia looked at her and was about to say something, but Lily lowered her eyes and said, My head hurts. Don't think about the headache. Go to sleep. From now on, close your eyes and have a good sleep. Shinjilia's voice was charming as he whispered, Go to sleep. Lily's eyelids became heavier and soon she closed her eyes. Shinjilia held on to her and carried her in his arms as he walked out. The three men outside all looked over. When Oming saw this scene, his face suddenly changed. He walked forward with a sullen face and took her back with both hands. Shinjilia looked at him with mixed feelings and asked, Have you forgotten that you are engaged to my sister? Oming held Lily and said, You don't need to worry. Well, now Miss Yu is also my patient. How can I not worry? Shinjilia glanced at Lily and said, Luo Ran, do you have a guest room here? Let Miss Yu rest. I have a few words to say to my future brother-in-law about the patient's condition. No need. Oming's face was sullen. If you have anything to say, go to my place and say it. I'll take her back. Shinjilia nodded slightly and said, Okay. Oming looked at Shinjilia and Shinjilia looked back at Oming. However, the expressions of both of them looked very unfriendly, as if there was gunpowder flying in the air. The inexplicable smell of gunpowder made Luo Zhan and Luo Ran a little confused. Oming walked out with Shinjilia with Lily in his arms. When they returned to the apartment, Oming put Lily back in the room. When they went out, Shinjilia took a bottle of Coke for himself. Seeing Oming come out, Shinjilia raised the Coke in his hand and said, Take it yourself. Do you mind? Oming glanced at him and sat on the sofa. What do you want to say to me? She has a memory but it's gone. Oming was stunned and looked at him. How did you know? I tested it out. Shinjilia took a sip of Coke and looked at Oming with contempt in his eyes. I don't know what this memory is, but you must know, right? Oming frowned. The first thing that came to mind was that night in the bar. He wasn't sure if this was the lost memory, but it was very likely. After all, according to Lily's character, he thought that it would take a lot of effort to get her back with him, but Oming was still brooding over it, but he also hoped to get lucky. It was very likely that it was this part. If it was true, Oming hoped that she would never think about it again. He was afraid. What if she remembered and didn't want him anymore? When Shinjilia saw that Oming didn't speak, he was even more certain that Oming knew. He sneered and said, It's okay if you don't want to say it. Anyway, it's not my woman who is frigid. I can't wait for you to break up with this woman and marry my sister. My sister really likes you. Oming lit a cigarette, sat on the sofa with his legs crossed and frowned. Do you think it's interesting to do this? Chapter 934. Shinjilia's tone was a little impatient. He looked at Oming and said, You can marry whoever you like. Why do you keep my sister from getting married and keep a mistress to make love? Is it interesting? Oming took a drag on the cigarette and leaned on the sofa with mixed feelings. Qiao Ziqing was his mother. He couldn't let her die. However, Lily was the woman he loved deeply. How could he give her up? He didn't want to lose either of them. Oming still didn't speak. Shinjilia snorted and said, Scumbag. If there's nothing else, you can go back. Don't take up space here. Oming put out the cigarette and unceremoniously asked him to leave. Shinjilia shook his head and said, Are you angry? Why don't you tell me what memory that woman lost? I can help you cure it. Most women's coldness is due to psychological reasons. Now you don't even want to tell me the cause. How can I help you? I don't need you. I will take her to the hospital. Get out. Oming stood up. He pointed to the door and said, Close the door when you go out. Shinjilia sneered, stood up and left. Yu Lily slept very deeply. There were all kinds of nightmares in her mind. It was as if she was a small boat in the middle of a vast ocean. Endless drifting and endless confusion. A seagull came and perched on the boat and spent many happy hours with her. It told her many things that she had never seen. However, a seagull was a seagull. It had its own home, its own partner, its own sky, its own sea. And she was just a small boat from beginning to end. A small boat with no background and no support. When she opened her eyes, Yu Lily's eyes hurt a little. She sat up and rubbed her eyes. The surrounding light was a little dim. It was evening. Yu Lily got up and walked out of the living room. There was no one in the living room. Oming was not there. After washing, Yu Lily felt a little hungry. She picked up the phone and called Oming, but the phone rang for a long time and no one answered. Yu Lily used the phone to order takeout. She was bored and lay on the bed with the phone. Yu Lily picked up the phone and turned on the monitoring system in Shin Manting's phone. She put on the headphones. There seemed to be people eating on the other side. There was the sound of cutlery colliding with porcelain plates, and there was the sound of people talking. More. I cooked this myself. Don't you like it the most? Thank you, Mom, Oming said. Oh, so he didn't lie to her the last few times. He really was at his mother's place. However, that woman was also there. She had misunderstood. However, knowing that he wasn't lying to her, Yu Lily's mood didn't improve. Instead, it became even heavier. Looking out the window at the gloomy sky, Yu Lily felt as if a stone was weighing on her heart. It was so uncomfortable. He felt like crying. However, it also seemed very pretentious. Yu Lily let out a long sigh and went to the bathroom to wash her face. Before she could wipe her face clean, she heard the doorbell ring. The takeout must have arrived. She casually wiped her face and went to open the door. Sure enough, it was a takeaway, but at the same time, there was an uninvited guest. Chapter 935. When Yu Lily saw him, she was shocked. After taking the takeout, she was about to close the door. But Shinjilia didn't look at her at all. He just closed the door and said with a smile, "What did you order?" "I haven't eaten yet. Let's eat together?" Yu Lily glared at him and said, "I ordered very little. I don't have enough for myself." "It doesn't matter. I saw that there is bread in your refrigerator. I will eat bread." Yu Lily was speechless. How could there be such a shameless person in the world? The deliverman was dumbfounded, but Shinjilia quickly pushed the door open and squeezed his way in. "Oh, why don't you even turn on the light? It's so dark." Shinjilia found the switch and turned on the light in the living room. Then he went straight to the refrigerator and took out a bottle of Coke. "Why are you looking at me? Sit down." Yu Lily stood and looked at him. She almost collapsed and shouted, "Is this your home or mine? Everyone is a family. Now my brother-in-law and my sister are going to the O family to talk about the wedding. Sooner or later you will have to call me brother." Shinjilia took a sip of his soda. The words that came out of his mouth sounded as if they were nothing out of the ordinary. Yu Lily suddenly felt suffocated. The sadness and discomfort that she had suppressed suddenly came up. This guy, he was here to hurt her on purpose, wasn't he? Yu Lily sneered and threw the takeout on the table. She shouted, "Don't you want to remind me that I am a mistress and a mistress? I know it now. Can you get out?" Shinjilia stopped drinking and looked at her. Yu Lily's little face was stiff with a touch of stubbornness. Her eyes were red, and it could be seen that she was trying not to cry. "Really cute." Shinjilia slightly raised his eyebrows and shrugged. "I didn't. I'm just telling the truth. I thought you didn't care. You live in another man's house either for money or for sex. You see, you are frigid. It's definitely not for sex but for money, right?" Shinjilia's words were too straightforward. It was so straightforward that Yu Lily's expression changed. She stomped her foot and roared, "Get lost." Shinjilia was yelled at. He blinked and looked behind Yu Lily. With a look of surprise he said, "Hey, why are you back so early?" Yu Lily's heart skipped a beat and she looked back. However, there was no one. When she looked back, Shinjilia had already taken out a lighter. With a light flick, a blue flame danced on it. With just one look, Yu Lily couldn't help but be captivated. "So beautiful." "Is it beautiful?" Shinjilia's lips curled up as he quickly twirled the lighter in his hand. Yu Lily looked at him, but she quickly regained her composure. She tilted her head to look at him and roared, "Not beautiful. Get out of here." Shinjilia was slightly surprised. He looked at her and laughed. "My goodness, your mental strength is quite strong. If you were in a martial arts novel, you would definitely be like Xiao Longnu." Yu Lily, was he praising her or insulting her? Chapter 936. Yu Lily stomped over and said, I can't eat if you're here. Well, then you can only lose weight. I won't leave. I'm going to wait here for O Ming to come back. O Ming is not here. You go back first and come back later. No, how can I do that? Shinjilia looked at Yu Lily's takeout and said, What did you order? Can I see it? No. Yu Lily put away the takeout and stared at him. Oh, it's fried chicken? Shinjilia glanced at it and said with a smile, How can you eat fried chicken without beer? Wait a minute, I'll get it. When Yu Lily heard that, she consciously stepped aside so that he could see the door outside. But soon Shinjilia sat down again and said, No, I can't come in later. Coke is also good. With a look of reluctance, he reached out to Yu Lily and said, Take it out and eat it. I promise you can't finish it alone. Come on. Yu Lily snorted and reluctantly took out the fried chicken and put it on the coffee table. The coffee table in front of her was a little low. Yu Lily leaned over and opened the package, only to find a bottle of beer inside. As soon as the package was opened, a delicious smell came out. It was a big chicken and Yu Lily really couldn't finish it. She gave a glove to Shinjilia and he took it without hesitation. Looking at the only bottle of beer, he said, Is there a cup? I want to drink beer. Yu Lily rolled her eyes at him and took out a disposable paper cup from a small cabinet under the coffee table. After pouring a cup for herself, she gave the rest to Shinjilia. Shinjilia accepted it and took a sip. His smile was full of satisfaction. That's great. Yu Lily twisted a chicken leg for herself and ate it with satisfaction. She said, Finish it quickly. If O Ming sees it, he will scold me. What the hell, he won't give me fried chicken. He said it's junk food and can't be eaten, Yu Lily said with a look of disgust as she ate. Gee, why is this person so annoying? Shinjilia glanced at Yu Lily but quickly looked away. He lowered his head to eat and asked, How did you find this family? It's so delicious. I want to order it next time. I just ordered it casually. Yu Lily was full after eating a few pieces of chicken. She drank the rest of the beer, pushed the fried chicken box and said, The rest is all yours. I'm full. Shinjilia was dumbfounded. You eat so little? Scram after you finish eating. You're too heartless. I'm still eating. Can't you be a little gentler? Yu Lily ignored him and looked down at her phone. Shinjilia looked at her. After filling his stomach, he took out a necklace. Yu Lily caught a glimpse of him taking something out of the corner of her eye. She instinctively looked over. When she saw the item in Shinjilia's hand, her attention was immediately drawn to it. Shinjilia shook the necklace and said, Look at this necklace. I saw it. What do you want? Do you like it? When Yu Lily heard this question, she knew that this guy was likely to set a trap for her again. She pouted and looked away, but when she turned her head, she seemed to see a flash of light in front of her. Chapter 937. Beautiful. Yu Lily stared at the flame and felt a little dazed. Do you like it? I like it. Can I give it to you? Shinjilia looked at her with a smile in his round eyes. When he smiled, his eyes became a beautiful crescent. This is all yours in the future. Take it. He threw the lighter forward, but he didn't throw it out. Yu Lily felt that she had caught the lighter. Her fingers passed through the blue flame and she couldn't put it down. Yu Lily, Shinjilia called her and whispered, Do you know who I am? Yu Lily heard the words and looked up, a little dazed. I am O Ming. Shinjilia looked at her and imitated O Ming. He smiled wickedly and raised his eyebrows slightly. What? Yu Lily looked at him, and the expression on her face was obviously relaxed. You are back. Yes, I am back. Do you remember what happened some time ago? What happened? Yu Lily looked at him blankly. That is, the last time you were in pain we seemed to have quarreled, right? Shinjilia said patiently, After quarreling we were separated for 4 years. After 4 years we met for the first time. What was the situation? Yu Lily was unconscious and her thoughts were pulled back to the past. After a pause, Yu Lily replied, Your driver hit me with his car and broke my boss's computer. What about the second time? You paid for the computer, went to my apartment and read my diary? Shinjilia frowned when he heard what happened. After Yu Lily's voice fell, Shinjilia asked again, What about the third time? In the hospital. I tried to commit suicide but you saved me. You carried me away in the hospital and refused to let me die. What happened later? I wanted to jump into a river and a building but you didn't let me die. In the end I figured it out. I don't want to die. I want to be with you. Shinjilia caught the point and asked, Why did you want to commit suicide again and again? Because I didn't want to live, Yu Lily answered honestly. Why didn't you want to live? I did something terrible to you, didn't I? But you've forgotten. Think about it, what have I done to you? Shinjilia deliberately lowered his voice and mimicked O Ming's. He raised his voice slightly and said, Think about it, you. The familiar form of address made Yu Lily's brows knit together. My head hurts. Shinjilia knew how difficult it was for her. Maybe it hadn't happened for a long time, but it had caused irreparable damage to her. This was the most fundamental reason for her frigidity, and also, the reason why O Ming didn't want to tell him or the reason why he was afraid to tell him. Maybe this reason could make her leave him. In this way, O Ming could truly let go of this woman and marry Shin Manting, right? Why did he do that? Yu Lily frowned, and her mind was full of annoyance and noise that was difficult to get rid of. O Ming had done something outrageous to her. What was it? Why is that? My head hurts, I can't remember. Yu Lily held her head and suddenly looked up. She saw a faint blue light flashing in front of her. There seemed to be a flash of light in her mind. Yu Lily was a little confused and tentatively asked, Birthday? Chapter 938. Cake. Yu Lily spat out a word again. In her mind, there was a shoe swaying in front of her, and on it, there was a white cake. Lick it clean. O Ming's voice seemed to ring in her mind. Shinjilia saw the change of her expression, held the lighter in his hand and quietly walked over. Yu Lily stared at the faint blue flame, and it seemed that she was surrounded by a nightclub with bright lights. Men and women were dancing enthusiastically, and there were beautiful hostesses around looking at her and laughing at her. Countless pairs of eyes were staring at her with contempt, ridicule, and sympathy as if they were saying, Lick it clean, lick it clean, lick it clean. Yu Lily stood there and wanted to escape, but there was another person behind her. Humiliation and despair. Yu Lily had never been in such an unbearable situation. However, the scene that made her feel even more unbearable was yet to come. That man, the man whom she loved deeply, the man whom she loved dearly, had given her the most unbearable and embarrassing situation. Some people around picked up their mobile phones to record videos, but there was a man on her body. In front of so many people, in front of everyone, O Ming bowed his head and smiled, full of evil. His pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes were full of ambiguity and revenge, and he whispered, You are here. Yu Lily suddenly stood up and screamed, No, no, O Ming, you bitch bastard. I quit. Do you really think that I can't live without you? Shameless and self-righteous. As she spoke, she punched O Ming in front of her, almost using all her strength, so hard, so mercilessly. Shinjilia did not say a word, stretched out his hands and let her hit his palms. It was not painful, but it was definitely not easy. Why do you do this to me? This behavior is no different from raping me in public. Yu Lily cried and punched the man in front of her, but soon her hands were held. Yu Lily could not break free and tears fell down. She cried, Why do you force me? I have obviously forgotten, why do you force me to remember? Shinjilia held her hands, looked at her with a pair of eyes and said, What did I do to you in public? Birthday? And then? She remembered but didn't say anything. Shinjilia looked at her and whispered seductively, What did I do to you? Will you tell me? Yu Lily couldn't say a word. She threw herself at him and hit him hard in the chest. B*TCH, B*TCH, B*TCH. Shinjilia groaned. He held her hand and took a step back. At the same time he felt that he had been scolded unjustly. But then he saw Yu Lily's eyes staring at him. Or he was staring at O Ming. Shinjilia's hair stood on end when she glared at him like that. It was hatred. Shinjilia had never seen such hatred before. Didn't Yu Lily love him? Why was there such hatred? Just as Shinjilia was looking at her and wondering what was going on, Yu Lily suddenly rushed toward him. She lifted her legs and jumped up, wrapping her arms around his neck. Chapter 939. Shinjilia screamed and wanted to push her away, but Yu Lily's hands and feet clung to him tightly. The strength of biting his neck was as if she wanted to bite a piece of flesh off his body. It was so hard and so cruel. Shinjilia gasped in pain and shouted, Yu Lily, are you King sick? However, these words stimulated Yu Lily's anger and hatred, and she bit harder. Shinjilia's hands pinched under her armpits, and Yu Lily's arms suddenly became sore and weak and she loosened them. Taking the opportunity to throw her on the sofa, Shinjilia gasped and reached out to wipe his hand, which was full of red. After being thrown like this, Yu Lily came back to herself. Looking at the man in front of her, Yu Lily felt a little dizzy. Looking at the man in front of her, she found that the man was Shinjilia? Shinjilia looked at her and covered his neck with his hand. His face was pale with pain and he said innocently, "It's just a meal of fried chicken. Do you have to be so cruel?" Then he looked at Lily with an aggrieved look and spread out his palms saying, "Look, it's red." Lily wiped her face and her hands were wet. Tears and the red on the corner of her mouth. Shinjilia looked at her dumbfounded expression and asked, "Did you remember something just now?" Remembered something? Lily couldn't remember when she had forgotten about it, but just now she suddenly remembered it and she had lost all her dignity. That night he treated me like that. How could I forget? Such a great humiliation. Lily was like a dog, humiliated by him and ridiculed by everyone. Why did Lily remember that she committed suicide, remembered that she was bullied, and remembered why she wanted to die and why she didn't want to live? But why couldn't she remember why she continued to stay with Ming? What reason did she have to stay with this man? Wasn't the reason why she left because of her identity? She thought she still had the self-righteous dignity, but she didn't know that her so-called dignity had been destroyed by Ming that night. Wiping away her tears, Lily stood up and was about to speak when she heard the door open. When Ming walked in and saw Shinjilia at home, he was stunned for a moment. Then his face suddenly darkened. Ming looked at Shinjilia with an indescribable sense of depression and asked, "Why are you here?" Shinjilia clutched his neck. When he turned to look at Ming, he felt a little wronged. When Lily saw Ming, her face also darkened. Her eyes fell on Shinjilia, and her voice was indescribably gentle as she said, "You go back first." When Shinjilia heard Lily's voice, he immediately felt a chill run down his spine. Things are not looking good. Sure enough, Ming's face became more and more unsightly. It was as if he had swallowed a landmine. It was extremely dangerous. Just as Shinjilia was about to walk out with his head lowered, Ming pulled him back with one hand. Shinjilia wasn't prepared at all. When Ming tugged at him, his hand immediately loosened. Chapter 940. Faintly there were red lipstick marks on it, stained with blood. In Ming's mind, there was a rush of blood, and an uncontrollable anger instantly broke down and filled every corner of Ming's body. What's going on? Ming was so angry that he roared. He waved his hands and stared at Lily. Lily looked at him and felt a sharp pain in her heart. Seeing his obviously angry face, she sneered, "Can't you see that I am doing the same thing as you?" Doing the same thing as him? Ming's face was darker and his eyes were sharp. He gritted his teeth and said, "Lily, what do you mean?" When Lily heard that, she sneered, "Don't you know what I mean? Where you went, what you did, and who you were with, I won't ask anything, but you don't have the right to question me." Shinjilia knew that the situation was not right. He immediately lowered his head and walked quickly to the door. But before he reached the door, Ming pulled him back with one hand. Shinjilia was a little annoyed and asked, "What are you doing?" "I'm going home." "Going home?" Ming sneered, grabbed his collar with his big hand and slammed him against the door. Without saying a word, he punched him in the face. Shinjilia was punched and there was blood in his mouth. The sweet taste overflowed and he was in so much pain that he gasped. "You are really—" Shinjilia wanted to curse, but before he could say anything he saw Ming's fist had reached out again. When Shinjilia saw it, he whispered, "Damn it." Shinjilia dodged and blocked Ming's fist. He was furious and shouted, "Both of you are sick. If you have something to do, solve it by yourself. What kind of hero are you to bully your neighbor? Damn it, the man and the woman are also sick." Shinjilia felt very wronged, but at this critical moment he had no chance to complain. He quickly dodged, blocked Ming's fist and fought back. For a moment the two of them were wrestling. Lily stood on the side and didn't have the slightest intention to stop them. Ming is a scumbag, a bitch. Shinjilia had awakened the memory that she had painstakingly hidden. He wasn't a good person either. He deserved it. Kill as many as you can. Lily looked at him coldly for a while and then went into the room. He purposely closed the door loudly with no intention of turning back. Ming heard the voice inside and paused. While he was distracted, he took a vicious punch from Shinjilia. Ming was caught off guard and stumbled backward. When she turned to look, Shinjilia had already opened the door and run away. Shinjilia pressed the elevator button and looked at the mirror next to the elevator. His originally handsome face had been beaten to such a state. It was over. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have meddled in other people's business. Sigh, do I have to pay such a price for a free meal of fried chicken? No. Shinjilia felt that this was an unlucky year for him. With a sigh, he stepped into the elevator as soon as it arrived. Ming watched as Shinjilia escaped. He reached out and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He stood up and glanced at the coffee table in the house. On the table there were the remains of fried chicken, a cup, and a beer can. Chapter 941. Oh, what does that mean? Where did you go? What did you do? Who were you with? I won't ask anything, but you don't have the right to question me. So, are they dating? In my house, in front of me, she actually did such a thing? Thinking of the teeth mark on Shinjilia's neck, Ming was furious. He walked quickly to his room and twisted the doorknob, but it didn't open. Ming was so angry that he slammed the door and shouted, "You open the door!" However, the person inside didn't seem to hear him and didn't move at all. Ming turned and went to the study. There was a spare key in the study. There was a spare key in the study. Ming quickly went inside and found the key. He opened the door, but he couldn't push it open. Lily glanced at the dresser and cabinet blocking the door, then bowed her head and continued to pack up. "You open the door." Ming roared, "Explain to me clearly, what is your relationship with that guy?" Lily listened to the movement outside. After packing up the last piece of clothing, she picked up the phone and called her colleague Yi Chanshan. Yi Chanshan seemed to be playing with her mobile phone and quickly answered the phone. "Hello? Chanshan, can I sleep at your house tonight?" Yi Chanshan suddenly did a carp roll and jumped up from the bed. With a look of joy on her face, she shouted, "That's great. When are you coming? Do you have the address?" "No. I'll send you a WeChat message. Where are you coming from?" Lily told her where she was, but the knocking on the door still didn't stop. Yi Chanshan heard it clearly on the other side of the phone. She frowned and said, "What are you doing? It seems that someone is quarreling over there. Are you quarreling with your boyfriend?" "No, it's just a mad dog barking outside." "Then send me a WeChat message and I'll take a taxi." "Okay, be sure to come." Lily hung up the phone and was not in a hurry to go out. She hid the suitcase in the cabinet. At the same time, Ming had pushed the door more than half open. He walked to the door and saw her. His face darkened and he said angrily, "What do you mean by this?" Lily stood inside and looked at Ming's angry face through the tall dressing table and other things. "Ming, let's break up," she said, enunciating each and every word clearly. Ming narrowed his eyes and looked at Lily, trying to see something in her face. But Lily's face didn't show the slightest bit of discomfort. There was no reluctance, no sadness, only indifference. Her expression was exactly the same as when she'd faced him after she'd had an abortion. Ming panicked for no reason, and his fists involuntarily clenched. A pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes looked at her and asked, "Why?" "What?" Lily smiled strangely and shook her head. "I don't know why, just like I don't know why I suddenly confessed to you and I don't know why I want to be with you. Do I need a reason?" Ming. Lily's expression was very strange. It seemed to be sarcasm and ridicule. Chapter 942. What? Why is there no why? Ming looked at her incredulously and frowned. Lily stood in the room, looked at Ming and said, "Ming, I remember everything." What? Ming was shocked and looked at her. Lily slightly raised the corner of her mouth, with sad pity in her eyes. "That night, Lily who was trampled under your feet came back." Ming's heart was suddenly full of emotions. Her sparkling and beautiful peach blossom eyes were more like the calm blue sea, instantly surging with waves and splashing waves. "What?" Ming looked at Lily inside, pretending not to understand, and said seriously, "Don't make trouble, move the dresser a little bit and let me in." "I'm not making trouble, don't you know very well, Ming?" Lily looked at him with pity in her eyes. "During this time you have been very impatient. Is it very uncomfortable to be so cold to me?" Lily, don't say that." Ming warned, pushed the door open and leaned against the dresser. The dresser was shaking. Fortunately, everything on it had been put away by Lily, otherwise it would have fallen to the ground. Lily glanced at the dresser that was pushed and said, "I know, Ming. Let's break up. It's good for both of us." Lily. Ming's heart was empty. Looking at her, he was a little scared. "Don't say that, okay? Listen to me. You have a fiancé, you have parents, and your mother likes Shin Manting very much, doesn't she? I know you also like her, so don't say in front of me that you don't like her and hate her." Lily looked at the front and smiled. "If you really don't like her and really hate her, you will not maintain this marriage. Ming, you are really hypocritical." Lily looked at Ming, reached out to the dresser and said, "I have said what I want to say and there is nothing else I want to say. If there is nothing else, I will go first." Ming walked in, opened his hands and held her in his arms. With great strength, Ming buried his face in her neck. His heart was beating fast. With infinite fear he said, "Don't go, Yu Lily. You can't." Yu Lily struggled for a while but found that she couldn't do anything about his strength. He stopped moving and sneered, "Do you mean to say that you want to have another breakup? Unfortunately, I'm not in the mood. I'm frigid. Oh, it's all because of you. Have you forgotten?" Yu Lily's words were more hurtful than the last. Ming felt as if his heart had been pierced, riddled with holes and dripping with blood. It was his fault. It was his fault. But he already knew he was wrong, didn't he? Ming hugged her, unwilling to let go. His voice was hollow and hoarse as he asked, "Yu Lily, must you do this?" Yu Lily struggled for a moment, then closed her eyes and said, "Ming, I'm tired of being a mistress. I'm just a mistress. To put it nicely, I'm a mistress. To put it bluntly, I'm a prostitute. Ming, let me go." Ming held her and his heart was empty. She didn't make a fuss. She calmly described these words that could easily hurt him, which was more hurtful than when she was hysterical. It was also more desperate and helpless. Chapter 943. Yu Lily, I have never regarded you as my mistress. I really like you and I want to marry you. Yu Lily, I want to give you a future. Ming gently released her, held her shoulders and looked at her. The blueprint I outlined for the future is centered on you. Without you, everything I have planned will not exist. Ah. Yu Lily looked at him with pity and gently touched his face with her hand. Yes, in your blueprint you have a wife, a family, parents and a mistress. Of course I will be there. Her eyes were slightly red, but she didn't lose control as she had imagined. Ming shook his head, looked at Yu Lily and reached out to hold her hand. You know what I mean. Yu Lily, don't you know me? In your eyes, am I that kind of person? Yu Lily laughed out loud and replied, No one can understand you, Ming. I've never understood you and you've never understood me, have you? Looking at Ming, Yu Lily gently kissed him on the cheek and said, I am tired, Ming. Don't hurt each other anymore. You and I are people from two different worlds. If we are forced to be together, no one will be happy. No. Ming held her with both hands and his eyes were full of panic. No, where else can you go in Kingstown? Stay here. Just think of it as staying in a hotel. Calm down first. When you calm down we will talk again, okay? Yu Lily looked at him. Ming was trying so hard to make her stay. He was humble and begging for pity. Wasn't that how she imagined him to love her deeply and ask her to stay? However, Yu Lily didn't feel happy. Instead, she felt unspeakably sad. Looking at him, Yu Lily pursed her lips. Her eyes were red, and her eyelashes trembled. She chuckled and looked down. Ming, Kingstown is really big and your place is really good. But I will not die if I leave you. No one could not survive without the other. Looking at him, Yu Lily's smile widened. Ming's heart was empty and he quickly explained, I didn't mean that, I know. Yu Lily interrupted him. It doesn't matter if that's what you mean. I know what I'm capable of. Between you and me, there has always been a gap that can't be crossed. There was in the past and there is even more now. That's it. I'm leaving, Ming. As she spoke, she gently pushed him away. Ming's heart was filled with bitterness. It was as if something had pried it open. Fresh blood gushed out, revealing the deep grooves of the heart. Fresh blood spurted out along with the beating of the heart. She resolutely turned around, took out the suitcase and quickly walked out of the room. It was as if Ming had been drained of all his strength and soul. He stood there and didn't know what to do. Looking at Yu Lily's back, Ming stood there like a marionette for a long time. Yu Lily took a taxi to the address Yi Chanshan had given her. When she arrived, it was already past 9 o'clock in the evening. The community where Yi Chanshan lived had access control. Hearing that Yu Lily had arrived, Yi Chanshan put on a coat and ran down. When she saw the big suitcase Yu Lily was carrying, she was stunned and said, Are you moving? She thought that Yu Lily wanted to stay with her for a day or two. Chapter 944. Yes, I won't live there in the future. Wow, really? Then let's live together. It's so lonely for me to live alone. I like you among the colleagues. Shanyu is too silly. Pfft. Yu Lily chuckled. Okay, but is your place enough? It's enough. Why don't you go up and have a look? Yi Chanshan took the big suitcase from Yu Lily and walked into her house. Yi Chanshan got in the elevator and pressed the 40th floor. When Yu Lily saw the floor, she was a little surprised and said, Why is it so high? A little, but this place is close to the company. Have you noticed that it only takes about 20 minutes to walk there from here? I bought a bicycle and it only takes about 10 minutes. I can also use it as my morning exercise every day. Isn't that great? Walking for more than 20 minutes, Yu Lily's lips twitched, but after entering Yi Chanchan's house she felt a little amazed. She thought that a single person like Yi Chanchan would live in a single apartment or something like that. But after entering she found that it was not the case at all. The layout here was much better than Yu Lily had imagined. The design style was modern and simple. The sofa in the living room was beautiful white. The paintings on the wall, the decoration, and the lighting were very high-end. And it was very big. There were 2 bedrooms and 1 living room, and the kitchen was very clean. This was simply tailor-made for sharing a house. Yu Lily was surprised. Do you live alone? Yes. Yi Chanchan was very satisfied with Yu Lily's surprised look. If you share a house with me in the future, there will be 2 people living in it. I won't have to stay alone in such a big empty room in the future. Did you rent this? Yu Lily asked. Oh, it's my sister's. Wow, your sister is so rich. Yu Lily put down the suitcase and walked around. She found that the luxury of the decoration here was no less than the current level of the villa in Xishan. Although it was not as good as the place where Oming lived now, the sense of quality was very good. Yu Lily shook her head, sat on the sofa and said, Did your sister buy all this furniture? Yes, my sister is a star. Although she's only a B-list star now, she'll be very popular sooner or later. Then she added, It's only a matter of time. What's your sister's name again? Yu Lily remembered hearing her mention it before, but she had forgotten the name. Yi Chanchan pouted and said, Yi Yu. Yeah, it sounds like he's your biological son. Even his name is so similar. Yu Lily stood up from the sofa and stretched. How much rent do I have to pay you in the future? Such a big house and such good furniture. I never thought about that. Yi Chanchan scratched her head and said, Do you know how to cook? Yes, and my culinary skills are pretty good. Yu Lily raised her eyebrows proudly. Yi Chanchan was pleasantly surprised. She asked, Really? Okay, then you can buy groceries and cook in the future. Take it as a deduction for the rent. How about it? That's it? Wouldn't it be too easy for me? Chapter 945. Deal? After reaching an agreement, Yi Chanchan quickly helped Yu Lily clean up the room and then moved in. In the other room, because Yi Yu occasionally came back to stay, the bedding was still there. Yi Chanchan just took out the things inside and let Yu Lily sleep directly. However, Yu Lily lay in this completely unfamiliar environment, closed her eyes for a long time, and couldn't successfully fall asleep. Opening her eyes, Yu Lily lay on the bed and her mind was a mess. She didn't know what she was thinking, but there was a lot of information, a lot of ideas flying around and finally all mixed into a mess. Climbing up, Yu Lily picked up her digital screen, plugged it in, held a pen and began to draw lines. Just at the entrance of the community, a stretch Lincoln was parked. A man held a cigarette between his long fingers, and the smoke rose slowly, filling the whole car with the smell of tobacco. After looking at the community for a long time, Oming started the car and drove back. Sooner or later he would take her back. As his only woman. Maybe it was because she couldn't recognize the bed, or maybe it was because she was in a bad mood that she couldn't sleep. Yu Lily stayed up late to paint, and she didn't feel sleepy until 4 or 5 o'clock. The next day was Sunday, and Yu Lily slept until 10 o'clock. When she woke up naturally, she was still confused when she saw the surroundings. However, she soon remembered her current situation. She had broken up with Oming, a little sad but more relaxed. She lifted the quilt and got up. Obviously, Yi Chanchan hadn't gotten up yet. After washing up, Yu Lily went out to buy groceries and find the way. When she came back, Yi Chanchan hadn't gotten up yet. However, there was no door to enter. Yu Lily was a little nervous. Yu Lily rang the doorbell but no one answered for a long time. She picked up the phone and dialed Yi Chanchan's number. It rang for a long time before it was picked up. Hearing that there was a response, Yu Lily pressed the doorbell twice, and Yi Chanchan immediately understood. Hanging up the phone, Yu Lily heard the sound of slippers coming from inside. After Yi Chanchan opened the door, she lazily went back and continued to sleep. When Yu Lily finished cooking, it was almost 12 o'clock. Yi Chanchan happened to wake up. She rubbed her eyes and washed up. When she came out, she smelled the aroma of food. When Yu Lily saw her, she waved at her and said, "Come wash your hands and eat." Yi Chanchan was shocked. She ran to the dining room and said, "You're amazing. Oh my God, I'm so happy. I can't believe I can still eat this kind of food. I don't have to eat fast food." Yu Lily scooped a bowl of rice for her and deliberately threatened her with a straight face. "Go wash your hands." "All right." Yi Chanchan quickly ran over to wash her hands and quickly came back. Holding the soup that Yu Lily had prepared, she exclaimed in surprise, "This is great. Lily, did you learn your cooking from your mother? If your cooking is so good, your mother must be even better." When Yu Lily heard that, she shrugged and said, "I don't have a mother, so I don't know, but I don't think she's as good as me, right?" Yi Qianshan paused and said apologetically, "Your mother passed away." Chapter 946. Yu Lily shrugged indifferently and smiled with a relaxed and happy face. Yi Qianshan felt like biting off her tongue and said with a guilty face, "I'm sorry, Lily. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." Yu Lily felt a little funny when she saw her like that. She reached out and pushed her and said, "What are you doing?" "It's nothing. I was abandoned by my parents at the gate of the orphanage when I was born. I've been used to it for so many years. Don't mind it too much." But it was Yu Lily's indifferent and relaxed look that made Yi Qianshan feel a little distressed. But Yi Qianshan was also very curious and asked, "Can I ask you a few questions? I've been curious for a long time." "Well," Yu Lily took a sip of soup and nodded. "Go ahead." As Yi Qianshan spoke, she chose her words carefully. She coughed lightly and said, "Let me make it clear first. I'm not targeting you. I'm just curious. What I'm saying is, how did you survive without parents? In the orphanage there should be many people who adopt children, right?" Yu Lily shook her head and didn't care. She said, "There are families who will adopt children, but many families in Kingstown will only adopt boys. How can they adopt a girl who is a waste of money? At that time girls were not valuable. Even if one or two were adopted, they were the kind that looked more obedient. I've been straightforward since I was a child. I don't want to be adopted. I heard that after being adopted I have to be a nanny or a maid. It's better to live freely in the orphanage." Yi Qianshan nodded with a look of understanding and said, "So that's the case. It's a pity. If any family adopts you they will be very happy and very happy." While eating, Yu Lily smiled and said, "You're wrong. I've been particularly annoying since I was a child. They say that I'm good at pretending. I'm good at talking to people and pretending to be obedient. That's why they all isolate me." Then she said helplessly, "Children are like this. They especially hate children who are liked by adults." Although many years had passed, many people's views on Yu Lily had not changed. Yi Qianshan felt a little more sympathetic. If an orphan didn't pretend to be obedient, who would like her? Yu Lily met Yi Qianshan's eyes while eating and waved her hand. "Have you never seen a beautiful woman before?" Yi Qianshan snorted and said, "I just sympathized with you." You destroyed all my sympathy with one sentence." "Great. Next time I have to pretend to be more pitiful. Maybe I can get some candy." After dinner, Yi Qianshan took the initiative to wash the dishes, and Yu Lily went straight into the bedroom. Yu Lily was a little sleepy because she hadn't slept much last night. However, she certainly couldn't sleep now. Turning on the digital screen, Yu Lily picked up the pen and continued to draw. Yu Lily's door was ajar. When Yi Qianshan saw that the door wasn't closed, she called out, "Can I come in?" Without raising her head, Yu Lily replied, "Come in." Chapter 947. Hearing that, Yu Lily unconsciously bent her lips, nodded and said, "Yes, it's very useful." Yi Qianshan glanced at it. Yu Lily was still drawing the frame lines and there were only a few rough lines on the screen. Yi Qianshan glanced at it and said, "You are also drawing comics. Which website did you sign up with?" "It's also under the O group." Yu Lily did not look up and quickly drew the lines. "OU?" Yi Qianshan nodded, patted her on the shoulder and said, "Well, the signing threshold of OU is very high and only experienced artists will sign it. What's your pen name?" "Do you want to know?" Yu Lily looked up at her and smiled brightly. Seeing her like this, Yi Qianshan despised her and said, "Don't be so mysterious. Tell me what's your name. If I tell you you'll definitely be shocked." Yu Lily gave her a heads up. Yi Qianshan glared at her, snorted coldly and said, "It's fine if you don't want to tell me. I often go to OU's comics and I can recognize those popular comics at a glance. Let me see your drawing style." "Okay." Yu Lily stepped back, and Yi Qianshan reached out and swiped a few times on the digital screen. When she drew on it, there were already a few squares on it that had been drawn and filled in, and the scene looked very exciting. Yi Qianshan was stunned when she saw the character. Looking up, there were already 5 or 6 squares of the comic, and the plot was the 3rd episode of Love Transaction. "My God!" Yi Qianshan shouted and couldn't believe it. "Is this Love Transaction? My God, who are you? Are you Li Xiaoyu?" Yu Lily looked up and smiled. Looking at her expression, she quickly moved her eyes to the digital screen in front of her and pulled the picture back. Yi Chanshan's face was full of shock, and her eyes were full of disbelief. "Oh my God, say something. I actually saw Li Xiaoyu alive. It can't be true, right?" Yu Lili laughed, pushed her gently and said, "When did Li Xiaoyu die?" "Yu Lili, Li Xiaoyu, oh, why didn't I think of it?" Yi Chanshan pounded her palms with a look of regret on her face. "A few days ago the people in the company were celebrating for me. Oh my God, the author was sitting right in front of me. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing." As he spoke, he subconsciously tried to recall if he had ever offended Yu Lili since they started working together. Then he recalled his chat history with Li Xiaoyu. God, fortunately, she was kind and had not offended anyone. Yu Lili laughed even more happily. She pushed her and shouted, "Get lost. It's not that exaggerated." When Yi Chanshan heard that, her blood boiled. She grabbed Yu Lili's arm excitedly and shouted, "Yes. Isn't it that exaggerated?" Yi Chanshan almost hit the wall and said, "Can you give me an autograph?" Li Xiaoyu's autograph. Yu Lili, "Hey, I can't. I haven't recovered yet." Yi Chanshan patted her face and looked at the lines on the digital screen. She pushed Yu Lili gently, blushed and urged, draw quickly." Yu Lili said, "I don't want to draw. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep." Chapter 948. You don't know that you are now the #1 artist on our website. You are a god. Yi Chanshan was getting more and more excited as she spoke. "When I heard that you lived in the city center, I was shocked. I wanted to find you several times, but I couldn't find an excuse. Oh my God, now you actually came to me." Yu Lili looked at her speechlessly and helplessly. She held her forehead and said, "What do you mean by coming to me? Of course, a goddess like you doesn't know the admiration we feel when we see you. Oh my God, you've been hanging out in front of me every day." Yi Chanshan grabbed her hand that was resting on her forehead. Her eyes were shining as she asked, "But is this really your first work? The style is so mature." "I don't think so." "Yes, it's my first work." Yu Lili's hair stood on end from Su Qingsang's grip. She subconsciously pulled her hand back and explained, "Maybe it's because I like to draw illustrations and the like, so it's not particularly strenuous for me to draw on." Yi Chanshan shook her head and waved her hand. Illustration and comics are completely different concepts. It is like novels and essays. How can they be compared? Just the setting of the story and the style are different from the flirtatious bitch outside. But, it is frustrating to compare people with others. I saw the traffic of your comic a few days ago. When you pay the royalties, it will at least be 6 figures. Yu Lili suddenly choked on her saliva. She looked at Yi Chanshan in front of her with her eyes wide open. She said, "No way, so much?" Yes, now you finally know. A new website like ours also has a promising future." Yi Chanshan looked envious. She walked to Yu Lili's bed and threw herself down. She said, "But why can't my painting be popular? I used to paint, As a potential excavator, you are greater than a painter. Don't be discouraged. In the future, there will definitely be more powerful painters. When that time comes, your commission will also be huge." "That's right. Your royalties are high and my commission is also high. Thinking about it this way, I don't feel so depressed anymore. Come, let's go shopping." Yu Lili looked at Yi Chanshan with a sleepy look and said, "I'm so sleepy. I didn't sleep long last night. I had to go to bed after painting." "Okay, then you sleep for 2 hours. We'll go shopping later." "Yu Lili, it's 1 o'clock now. Go to sleep. I'll wake you up at 3 o'clock. "Big sister, I don't have money. I haven't paid my salary yet." "Oh, I'll lend it to you. Anyway, I'll get my salary tomorrow and I'll get my royalties the day after tomorrow. You little rich lady, let's go." In the end, Yu Lili couldn't resist Yi Chanshan's tyranny. She didn't even sleep and went shopping with Yi Chanshan. The places that Yi Chanshan visited were different from the places that she and Su Qianxi had visited before. Relatively speaking, the places that Yi Chanshan visited were more cost-effective. Many of the styles of clothes were particularly beautiful, but the prices were not expensive. Yu Lili and Yi Chanshan shopped for the whole afternoon. Yi Chanshan returned with a full load, but Yu Lili only picked a few that she particularly liked. Chapter 949. Tired from walking, Yi Chanshan found a dessert shop and sat down. They each ordered a drink. When Yu Lili was drinking, she inadvertently saw a familiar figure. Li Jinan? What? Seeing Li Jinan in such a place, Yu Lili felt like she was in a dream. The consumption here was above average. Although the environment was not bad, generally speaking, a rich man like Li Jinan would not come to such a place. What made Yu Lily most surprised was that there was a woman standing next to Li Jinan. He was wrapped in white clothes from head to toe, and a red scarf covered his face. He wore a hat and sunglasses and it was airtight. Li Jinan pulled her without gentleness and said, "Come on, pick." Seeing Li Jinan like this, Yu Lily almost spat out the drink. Is this the attitude of a girl? Sure enough. His brother is so cold and this guy is no exception. Yi Chanshan followed Yu Lily's gaze. When she saw the woman she was a little surprised. "Hey Yu? Yu?" Yu Lily looked over and her lips twitched. "How can you recognize me? Are you mistaken?" "Well, it should be. Yu said that she has to shoot today, so she is very busy. But who is that man? He is so handsome." Yi Chanshan looked at Li Jinan with her eyes shining. Wow, he is like a domineering president coming out of a comic. Not only Yu Lily and Yi Chanshan were looking at them, but many people in the dessert shop were staring at them. Yu covered her face with a scarf and struggled. Her face was hot and she whispered, "President Li, I am joking." Li Jinan heard her words and chuckled. His eyes were as calm as water, with a little cold light in them. "I'm sorry, I never joke." Choose. Yu lowered her head, turned to face Li Jinan and said, "If you have anything to say, let's go out and talk. There are so many people. You also know how to be shy?" Li Jinan sneered, turned around and walked out with Yu. He did not have the slightest pity for her. "Tut." Yu Lily looked at him with sympathy in her eyes. Yi Chanshan stood up and said, "The more I look at her, the more she looks like my sister. Let's go and see." Without waiting for Yu Lily to stand up, he followed Li Jinan. Yi Chanshan chased after her, picked up her cell phone and called Yu. Soon the woman in front picked up her phone. "Hello sis." When Yi Chanshan heard his voice, a flame of anger flared up in her heart. She asked, "Didn't you say that you were going to film today?" Yu was shocked. She turned her head and saw his eyes full of deep meaning. She pretended that nothing had happened and said, "Yeah, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first." "Look behind you," Yi Chanshan shouted. Yu's body froze. She turned her head to look. Yi Chanshan strode up and reached out to pull Yu. She pointed at Li Jinan and asked, "Who is this? Your friend?" With obvious anger in his voice, he pulled Yu back, stared at Li Jinan and said, "What are you doing? What's so great about being handsome? Even I can't bear to look at my sister. Who do you think you are?" Chapter 950. Hearing the word boss, Yi Chanshan immediately lowered her shoulders and shrank her neck. Looking at Li Jinan's perfect face, she immediately smiled and said softly, "I see. Oh, why didn't you say so earlier? It's not good to have such a big misunderstanding, right?" Yi Chanshan gently pushed Yu back and said, "Boss, do you want to take my sister to work? Go ahead. It doesn't matter if you can be more rude. Yu is a masochist. The more rude you are, the happier she will be. Just remember to send her back at night or her husband will be worried." "Husband?" Li Jinan's almond-shaped eyes were as calm as still water. If one looked closely, they would be able to detect the subtle ripples. In a low voice he asked, "You're married?" While speaking, he subconsciously looked at the ring finger of her left hand. There was no ring. Yu lowered her head and did not speak. Seeing this, Yi Chanshan felt that something was wrong and covered her mouth. "Did I say something wrong?" Yu walked to Yi Chanshan and said, "President Li, I am married and I have been married for more than 2 months." Li Jinan laughed and looked at Yu. His eyes, which were as calm as the wind and the moon, were filled with a trace of a smile. "Do you think I am stupid?" Yu Lily ran up and Li Jinan saw her at a glance and was a little surprised. Yu Lily felt a little embarrassed, smiled and said, "Long time no see, Third Master Li." Li Jinan looked at her with a smile and nodded. "Yes, long time no see." However, it was obvious that he did not want to stay any longer and reached out to pull Yu. Yu struggled a little, looked at Yi Chanshan and said, "Sister." Yi Chanshan didn't know Li Jinan, but Yu Lily had heard a little about his character. This guy didn't care much about many things, but now he was like this to Yu. There must be another reason. Li Jinan's calm eyes darkened and he said, "Let's go." It was only one word, but it was with a majesty that could not be disobeyed. It was obvious that Yu was unwilling, but she still followed him. Yi Chanshan sensed that something was amiss and ran forward to block his way. However, when she met Li Jinan's indifferent gaze, she felt inexplicably nervous and guilty. Looking at him, Yi Chanshan gathered her courage and said, "Where are you taking my sister?" "What for?" Can't you see that she's unwilling? Work. Li Jinan narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look at Yi Yu. He slowly said, since you've taken the initiative to take the first step, the second and third steps will have to be completed by you. After all, last night it was you. Yi Yu was annoyed. She reached her hand out to cover his mouth. Embarrassed, she demanded, shut up. Facing Yi Qianshan's surprised gaze, Yi Yu felt her face heat up. She pulled Li Jinan and shouted, go go go. She pulled Li Jinan along and they quickly descended the escalator. Yi Qianshan looked at this scene and was a little stunned. She turned to look at Yu Lily and asked, do you know this man? Yes, he is the grandson of the old general of the Li family, Li Sun. He is now the younger brother of the president of the LS Group, and also the president of the new brokerage company NC Entertainment in Kingstown. He is one of the former majors of the Wuxia army and has now retired. Chapter 951. This is Li Jinan? Yes. Yu Lily quickly withdrew her gaze and looked at Yi Qianshan. Let's go back. Oh my god. Yi Qianshan looked regretful. I can't believe I don't know him. Oh my god, he's so handsome. I was just saying that he looked a little familiar. He looks a little fairer than Bai Qi, so that's why I don't know him, right? Yu Lily couldn't help but laugh. She pulled her and said, yes, of course, you will be much whiter after coming out of the army. Let's go back to eat. I'm starving. Yi Qianshan was still in shock. Looking at the direction of Li Jinan's departure, she couldn't express her regret. How can my sister meet such an excellent man? Brother Luo, and Li Jinan. Brother Luo, and? When Yu Lily heard the name, she turned her head and looked over. Who is Brother Luo, and? You'll be scared to death. Brother Luo, An's full name is Shen Luo, and? He is one of the 3 young masters in the capital and the husband of my sister Yi Yu. You know Shen Luo, Han. Do you know Shen Manting? Yu Lily looked at Yi Qianshan. Shen Manting? Oh. Yi Qianshan was confused. Is there such a person? Yu Lily thought for a moment and said, it's the woman who gave me the little fur ball last time. That's Shen Manting, Shen Luo, An's sister. I've heard of her, but I haven't seen her. After all, she was only recognized a few years ago. I went to college in Kingstown and rarely go back to the capital, so I don't know. Didn't you see your sister when she got married? Yu Lily felt a little strange. She was recognized a few years ago. That is to say, Shen Manting was lost before and now she is recognized? Yes, it is said that when her mother was pregnant she suffered from depression and ran out when she was about to give birth. Later she gave birth in the winter outside. The mother died and the child was lost. I heard that it was a snowy day in Kingstown in 50 years. No way. Yu Lily felt a little strange. So dramatic? It's practically a real-life version of a manga. That's right, but it's true. That Shen Manting was recognized by the old lady of the Shen family. She saw that Shen Manting looked like her mother, so she directly brought her back. I don't know if she was impersonating her. Yi Qianshan touched her belly and said, I'm so hungry. Let's go eat. Yes. Yu Lily randomly picked a restaurant and walked in. She continued to ask Yi Qianshan, if Shen Manting is discovered not to be a member of the Shen family, does that mean she is no longer the daughter of the Shen family? Of course. Who would want to raise someone who has nothing to do with them? I heard that when Shen Manting returned to the Shen family she was ostracized for a long time. In the end, old Mrs. Shen insisted that she stay, so she had no choice but to let her stay. Yi Qianshan flipped through the menu and called the waiter to order. Yu Lily frowned and said nothing. Since this was the case, the Shens might have long known that Shen Manting was not a member of their family, but they still kept her and got engaged to Ming. Chapter 952. As Yu Lily thought about it, she suddenly felt that she was terrible. She actually wanted to pull Shen Manting down, however, she was not reconciled. Yu Lily lowered her eyes. Yi Qianshan had already ordered the dishes. Looking at Yu Lily, she suddenly came over and asked, why are you so interested in Shen Manting? Did she have a grudge against you? Almost. Yu Lily drank a glass of water. She bullied me once and I bullied her once. That's even. Moreover, Shen Manting was bullied more miserably by her. After all, she still installed a monitoring device in her mobile phone. However, in the war of fighting for Ming she lost. It was a crushing defeat. Yu Lily's mood suddenly became a lot lower. Yi Qianshan looked at her and didn't say anything. The two of them had a good meal. After returning home, Yu Lily painted on the digital screen and went to bed before 10 o'clock. However, Yi Chanshan's heart was always not very calm. Thinking of Yi Yuyu's state and situation today, she picked up the mobile phone and called Yi Yuyu. However, no one answered. Yi Yuyu looked at the phone that kept ringing and squinted at the man sitting next to her with a gloomy face. Li Jinan slowly poured her a glass of red wine and said slowly, "Take it. What are you afraid of?" However, the more nonchalant Li Jinan appeared, the more flustered Yi Yuyu felt. Looking at him, Yi Yuyu straightened up and said, "Mr. Li, I think this is a misunderstanding. Last night was purely an accident. We are all adults. Isn't it normal to do this kind of thing?" While Yi Yuyu was talking, she suddenly saw Li Jinan stand up. She was shocked, but still pretended to be calm and looked at him. "And I have." However, Li Jinan had already walked over here. Yi Yuyu almost bit her tongue. Li Jinan came over and looked down at her. He was wearing a straight long windbreaker and only a shirt inside. His healthy figure was faintly discernible. Yi Yuyu couldn't help but be attracted by him, but she quickly looked away and said, "I am married. You should know my husband." "He. Why are you taking off your clothes?" Yi Yuyu roared. The distance between him and Yi Yuyu was less than half a meter. Just as Li Jinan moved, his unique scent wafted over. It was unfamiliar and pleasant. Yi Yuyu blushed and glared up at him. Li Jinan glanced at her lightly and didn't seem to feel anything wrong. He said, "It's a little hot. If you're hot, go somewhere else and take it off." Why are you taking it off in front of me?" Yi Yuyu stuttered, but she quickly pretended to be calm and said, "Is it because you can't help but want to flirt when you see me?" Li Jinan raised his eyebrows and leaned over. Yi Yuyu immediately shrank back and warned him with a red face, If you come any closer, I'll kick your D***ck." When Li Jinan heard that, his lips curled into a smile. Without fear, he took a step forward and said, "Why don't you give it a try?" "I'm serious. If you come any closer, I'll kick your D***ck." "Oh, what are you doing?" Yi Yuyu waved her hands in an attempt to push him away, but he held her hand. Chapter 953. Yi Yuyu was even more annoyed. She pushed him and shouted, "You are the one who is shy. So you're not shy?" I. Yi Yuyu wanted to refute, but she didn't know how to refute for a while. She was so angry that she shouted, "Bastard, just say what you want to say. Is it fun to tease me like this?" "Interesting." Li Jinan straightened up and loosened the button of his shirt, revealing his healthy lines. He looked down at her and said, "I just want to ask you a few questions. First, are you really married?" "Yes." Yi Yuyu took out a ring from her bag. It was a big diamond, very shiny. "This is my wedding ring. However, it is a secret marriage. I can't let others know that I am married. My husband also thinks so." Li Jinan's eyes darkened. He reached out and snatched the ring from her hand without a word. He held it in his hand. Yi Yuyu was annoyed. She stood up and shouted, "What are you doing? Give it back to me. The design is too vulgar and ugly. I'm confiscating it." Li Jinan put the ring into his trouser pocket. Yi Yuyu frowned, then rushed toward him, reached into his trouser pocket and shouted, "Give it back to me." Li Jinan reached out and easily grasped her hand in his. He took the opportunity to pull her into his arms and pull her into his embrace. Yi Yuyu suddenly froze and looked up at him. Li Jinan's skin was so good that it made her hair stand on end. He looked at her with a pair of calm eyes and said, "Show me the marriage certificate." Yi Yuyu wanted to slap him to death. She roared, "Which psychopath will carry a marriage certificate with him? Is there something wrong with him?" Li Jinan chuckled and moved closer to her. He said, "If I were married, I would." Unfortunately, there was no such thing for him to carry now. Yi Yuyu was a little annoyed and wanted to hit him with her head, but he held her head with one hand. There was a smile in Li Jinan's eyes, but there was a faint threat in it. Yi Yuyu suddenly froze and did not dare to move. Li Jinan was very pleased with her tactfulness. He calmly said, "Very good. Behave yourself." Yi Yuyu felt that her dignity had been challenged. She puffed up her cheeks and was about to yell at him when he interrupted her. "Secondly, you said that you've been married for more than 2 months, but you seduced me last night." "I didn't seduce you," Yi Yuyu roared. She was going crazy. "Then what is seduction?" Li Jinan held the back of her head and narrowed his eyes. "You drugged me and even laid naked on my bed. Isn't that an unspoken rule?" Yi Yuyu felt a little annoyed. She was so angry that her eyes were red. She said, "I have said many times that I didn't put the drug." Li Jinan narrowed his eyes and thought back to last night. It was the wrap-up party for the new movie that NC had invested in. As the boss, of course, Li Jinan had to be present. After drinking a little too much with the crew and the director, Li Jinan decided to let everyone stay in the hotel. The hotel was a 5-star hotel under Li Xiqing's name. Li Jinan directly stayed in the presidential suite on the top floor. All the staff were very happy. At that time, Li Jinan had a fever all over his body. He originally thought it was because of the strong aftereffect of the wine. Chapter 954. Moreover, she was naked and her mouth was making unbearable sounds. At the same time, his already feverish body became even more shameful. Although Li Jinan had never had a woman before, he had heard a little about it. "This woman wants to sleep with me?" With a sullen face, Li Jinan walked forward and lifted the blanket that was covering her body. However, what entered his eyes was a vibrant fragrance that made his blood boil. Yu seemed to be aware of his arrival. She opened her eyes and wrapped herself around him. Uncomfortable, Li Jinan was also uncomfortable. He wanted to push her away, but his body was stiff. Yuyu's figure was not particularly good, but her proportion was very good. The reason why he had never had a woman before was at least because Li Jinan did not have that desire. Now that it was like this, Li Jinan had no intention of refusing. After all, he was 29 years old. He had a good impression of this girl. She was quite obedient. Li Jinan pushed her down, but just as he was about to enter, he noticed an obvious barrier. He reached out and pushed her slightly. He asked, "First time?" Yu did not answer but responded with a very charming and jerky twist. A night of indulgence. The next day, Li Jinan was awakened by the sound of her killing a pig. Yu curled up in the quilt and shrank back in horror. She screamed again and again. "You beast, you dare to touch me, I?" Yu hugged the quilt and cried out, "Beast, beast, bastard, I didn't expect you to be such a person." Li Jinan was speechless. His head was a little painful. Li Jinan rubbed his temples and went forward to cover her mouth. Yu closed her eyes and tears began to stream down her cheeks. She cried her heart out. Li Jinan's face was even more sullen. He whispered, "This is not interesting. You drugged me and took off all your clothes. You are my woman. Now the thief is crying thief?" When Yu heard that, she was furious. She took his hand down and shouted, "Damn pervert, damn beast, disgusting. You took advantage of me when I was drunk and you have the nerve to say such things." "You?" Li Jinan covered her mouth with a gloomy face. "What do you mean? Want money? Or a movie? Role? Just say it. There's no need to do this. A female celebrity sleeping with her boss. Are these the only requirements?" When Li Jinan accepted it the night before, he had already mentally prepared himself. When Yu heard those words, she felt even more humiliated. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she bawled. Tears and snot smeared all over Li Jinan's hand, and his face darkened. ****. Yu hugged the blanket and wailed. Li Jinan was infuriated. With a dark expression he said, "If you continue to pretend, you won't get anything." When Yu heard that, she flew into a rage. She lunged forward to hit him, but he clamped her hands down and pinned her beneath his body. Li Jinan squinted at her and said, "Playing hard to get? Want to do it again?" Yu sobbed, gritted her teeth and turned her face away. She said, "You can go. I'll just take it that I was ked by a dog." "Are you calling me a dog?" Li Jinan almost went crazy. "I never expected you to be that kind of person. How dare you call a thief a thief?" As he spoke, he pulled Yu up. "Go get the surveillance footage." Chapter 955. However, when he went to the security room to check the surveillance footage, he found that it was Yu who stumbled into the room. She was unbuttoning her clothes as she walked. After about an hour, Li Jinan finally walked in. In between, Li Jinan also had a sufficient alibi. Yu was stunned. She frowned and tried to recall. In her mind, there seemed to be a voice tempting her. "Go to room VIP 888. Go inside. Someone can help you." But who? Yu couldn't remember. She frowned, but she was sure that it was not Li Jinan. Li Jinan looked at the screen and turned to look at Yu. Yu felt guilty and shrank her neck. "Now, how do you explain it?" Li Jinan took a step forward and Yu took a step back. Her face was full of fear. Li Jinan's usually calm eyes suddenly became turbulent. He looked at Yu with deep warning. "Now that the evidence is conclusive, you first drugged me, and then went to my room in advance to wait for me? Then as soon as I went in you jumped on me. Am I right?" Yu was so angry that her face turned red. She shouted, I am not that thirsty. Then, who was the person who hugged me last night and said that she wanted me? Li Jinan quickly asked. The people in the security room were dumbfounded. That was explosive. This is too exciting. Yi Yuyu's face turned even redder. She raised her chest and shouted, It must be because you coveted my beauty and wanted to do something to me for a long time, right? I didn't expect you to look like a dog. I didn't expect you to be this kind of person. Bah. The pressure around Li Jinan suddenly dropped. He took a step forward. His face was dangerously cold. He stared at her with his phoenix eyes. Say that again? Yi Yuyu cowered. Her back hit the wall. She bowed her head and said, I was wrong. The security guards in the security room immediately laughed. Yi Yuyu's face was burning. She wanted to raise her head and say something to save her dignity. However, when she met Li Jinan's eyes, she immediately became timid. She whispered, Can we go out first? Li Jinan's face softened a little and he straightened up. Yi Yuyu immediately pushed him away and ran out. Li Jinan turned his head and looked at the people in the security room. He narrowed his eyes and warned, If what happened today goes out. No, don't worry, third young master, we will never say a word. The security guards nodded and swore. After receiving the affirmation, Li Jinan stepped out and followed closely behind her. Soon the two of them walked out together. Yi Yuyu endured the discomfort in her legs and quickly walked out of the hotel. When she looked back, she found that Li Jinan was still following her. She was shocked and shouted, What do you want to do? I should be the one asking you that. I need to calm down. You want to run away just like that? Li Jinan put his hands into his coat pockets and looked at her. Yi Yuyu was going crazy. She roared, What do you want then? I'm hungry. Let's eat. Li Jinan looked at her and said, Your treat. I didn't bring any money. Then it's my treat, let's go. Li Jinan pulled Yi Yuyu over and looked around. His eyes darkened. Someone was following them. He should be in existence similar to a private detective. Otherwise he wouldn't be so vigilant. Chapter 956. After getting into the car, Yi Yuyu said she wanted to eat dessert. Li Jinan randomly found a shopping mall and went in. Yi Yuyu looked at Li Jinan, who was obviously very unhappy, and said weakly, It's really not me, third master Li. You know I don't have the guts to do such a thing when you see me being so cowardly, right? Li Jinan listened and said seriously, You are very cowardly. Yi Yuyu felt like an arrow was shot in her heart. She raised her eyes and glared at him. Li Jinan's face was very close to hers, and Yi Yuyu's heart was beating faster. Her face was getting redder and redder. Li Jinan looked at her and asked, Nervous? No, I'm not nervous. No way. Yi Yuyu's heart was about to jump out of her chest. She looked at Li Jinan's face and swallowed. Li Jinan leaned forward slightly and easily pressed her against the wall. He asked, What about this? Yi Yuyu's face was even redder. Her eyes stared at the red lips in front of her, and her heart was beating fast. Yi Yuyu pursed her lips and did not speak. Li Jinan slightly narrowed his eyes and lowered his head to her lips. Yi Yuyu saw through his intention at a glance. She immediately turned her head and pushed him hard, shouting, Jim Li, I am really married. My husband is Shenluo An. Shenluoan? Li Jinan felt that the name was inexplicably familiar. After thinking about it, he realized who this person was. Looking at Yi Yuyu in surprise, Li Jinan raised his eyebrows and said bluntly, I have never heard of Shenluo An's marriage. I said it's a secret marriage, a secret marriage. Let's keep a low profile when we get married. Well? Li Jinan thought for a moment, shook the red wine in his hand and handed it to Yi Yuyu. Have a drink? No, I have to go back. It's too late. It's very dangerous to be with a man, especially a beautiful and sexy woman like me. If I drink wine, I can't guarantee what you will do to me. I must be careful. Yi Yuyu said seriously. Li Jinan was silent for a moment. When Yi Yuyu saw that, she stood up and tried to walk out. Li Jinan slammed the glass on the table. Yi Yuyu froze on the spot. Yi Yuyu was terrified. She stood there and asked, What? I haven't finished my second question. Go ahead and ask. Yi Yuyu turned her head and glared at him. Last night was your first time, right? It was not a question but a statement. The obvious obstruction, the eye-catching red stain, and the look on her face as if her parents had died, made Li Jinan certain that it was her first time. At the mention of that, Yi Yuyu almost burst into tears again. She looked at him with reddened eyes. When Li Jinan saw that, he was even more certain. He narrowed his eyes and laughed coldly. Since you've already been married for more than 2 months, why would there be a first? Is your man incompetent? Yi Yuyu's initially composed expression crumbled in an instant. Chapter 957. When Li Jinan heard this, he couldn't help but laugh. Looking at her back, his eyes were full of sarcasm. It's also my first time, Li Jinan said helplessly. It seems that I'm at a disadvantage. Li Jinan picked up the glass of red wine and took a sip. Picking up the phone, Li Jinan swiped through the address book, found Luo Zhan's number and dialed it. Luo Zhan was playing games when he suddenly received a call. He was a little annoyed. But after seeing the caller, he felt a little surprised. Third brother Li? Picking up the phone, Luo Zhan didn't wait for him to speak first and teased, "Oh, what kind of wind is blowing? Even the third brother Li came here. What's the matter?" Li Jinan heard the teasing, but he was not annoyed. He said, "Brother Luo, how do you know that I have something to ask you for help?" "Well, you two brothers are the same. If there is nothing, will you come back to me?" The answer was, of course, impossible. "So what do you want?" "Well, I don't know anyone in the National Marriage Bureau, so I have to ask you for help." "You want to get married?" Luo Zhan was interested. "Who is the partner? A man or a woman?" Li Jinan said, "If it is a man, my grandfather will strangle me before my father kills me." "Ah, who is it?" "Oh, the third brother Li has grown up." "Tell me, who is the partner? What's her name? How old is she?" "These are not important. I want you to help me find out if this woman is married." Luo Zhan was stunned. "No way, you actually like a married woman?" "It's just a possibility. I suspect she is lying to me." "What the hell, do you like her?" "Not really." Li Jinan put down the red wine glass in his hand and said, "I just slept with her. I can't say that I like her, but I feel good." "Oh, the third brother Li is also enlightened. He actually went to sleep with a woman." "Okay, name and ID number, I will help you." "Well, wait a minute, let me check it." "Do you know who he is married to?" "You can tell me the name." "Yiyu Shinluo An." "Okay, wait a minute." Luo Zhan's fingers quickly jumped on the keyboard and exclaimed, "Hey, isn't this guy the scientist in the capital?" "It seems so." Li Jinan also heard a little about Shinluo An's identity. "Yes, Yi Yuyu and Shinluo An are husband and wife, and they registered their marriage in August." "Really?" Li Jinan frowned and suddenly thought of something. He reached into his trouser pocket and took out a ring. Suddenly he thought of something and took it. And put Jinan feed it. It was very valuable. Was this ring really their wedding ring? It. "Brother I and it. Ui, he said, T, Li I U I up, T it, T, lut, Li. Chapter 958. These two brothers are the same. They deserve to be beaten. Luo Zhan was so angry that he threw his phone away. He suddenly remembered that he hadn't finished the game yet. When he went back to check, he had been reported. He wailed, "Damn it, I'm so sorry." Yi Yuyu went out of Li Jinan's villa and quickly went out to take a taxi. But when the car started, she suddenly realized that her wedding ring was still with Li Jinan. Yi Yuyu was a little angry, but she didn't have the courage to go back. What if Li Jinan felt that it didn't matter if he did it once or twice and forced her to do it with him? What should I do? It's too dangerous. While Yi Yuyu was struggling, she heard the phone ring again. It was her sister Yi Qianqian. She picked up the phone. "Hello, sister." Yi Qianqian heard her voice and was slightly relieved. She asked, "Where are you? Are you okay? Have you gone home?" "Well, I'm in the car." "Hey, you have to be careful. It's not easy for you to get married to brother Luo An. Don't make any trouble. You know how much the old lady of the Shin family hates you?" Yi Yuyu also felt uncomfortable. She nodded and said, "I know, sister. There won't be a next time." Yi Qianqian was not a fool. When she heard what Li Jinan said today, she vaguely seemed to guess something. She asked, "Last night were you with that Li Jinan?" Reflexively, Yi Yuyu immediately replied, "No." However, after saying it, she felt that her reaction seemed to be too much. She calmed down and said, "No, how could I be with him? He is the boss of our company. Last night the movie I starred in was finished. Although it was only a supporting role, I still had a performance, right? So I just drank some wine with him. That's all." "Really?" Yi Qianqian obviously didn't believe it. Yi Yuyu's heart was pounding, but she said with certainty, "Yes, it's true." When Yi Qianqian heard this, she nodded and said, "You're not a child anymore. You have to know what you can do and what you can't do. The people of the Shin family are waiting to see you make a fool of yourself, especially the old woman of the Shin family. If you do something wrong, she may drive you out on the spot. If you want to stay with Shinluo, and it will be very difficult. Yi Yuyu's chest tightened as she thought about the mistake she had made the night before. He was already wrong. The only thing he could do now was not to be discovered. Okay, I got it. I won't. Sleep early. Good night, sister. After hanging up, Yi Chanshan felt a little uneasy. Yi Yuyu was still young and she had been spoiled from a young age. Could she really continue to stay in a place like the Shen family, where they would swallow her whole without spitting out the bones? As Yi Chanshan thought about it, she fell asleep without realizing it. The next day, Monday. Yu Lily got up very early. She put on her sportswear and went for a morning jog. Yu Lily bought breakfast on the way back. When she came back, it was already 8:10 in the morning, but Yi Chanshan had not gotten up yet. She went and knocked on the door. After Yu Lily knocked on the door for a long time, Yi Chanshan came out lazily. When she opened the door and smelled the breakfast, Yi Chanshan's eyes lit up. Chapter 959. Seeing the sportswear on Yu Lily, Yi Chanshan felt like she had seen a new human being. She shouted, "Wow, Lily, your work and rest are so regular. You can wake me up every day and I will definitely not be late. I think you should go running with me every day. Not only will you not be late, but you will also be healthy." When Yi Chanshan heard that, she immediately waved her hand and said, "Forget it. I choose to be a quiet, beautiful woman." Hearing that, Yu Lily glanced at her, quickly ate her breakfast and said, "How do you usually go to work?" "By bike. My little donkey is parked downstairs. Unfortunately, it is a single car, so only one person can ride it." Yi Chanshan took a bite of the bun and said, "Wait for me. After I finish eating, let's walk together. I'll show you the way." Yi Chanshan ate slowly. Yu Lily looked at her and felt a little sorry for her. She said, "No, I'll go by myself. I'll just check the spots. You can go by bike and eat slowly." Yi Chanshan was a little embarrassed. "Okay." Yi Chanshan took a sip of soy milk. "I don't want to walk." Yu Lily chuckled. After changing her clothes, she went out. It was exactly 8:30. Yu Lily walked in the direction of the company. She wore flat shoes and looked at the scenery all the way. The surrounding environment was good, and the location should be more expensive than she thought. Yu Lily walked forward for about 10 minutes and passed through a busy section of the road. There were various markets and stalls selling fruit and flowers nearby. There were many people here, but today the people were particularly harmonious. Just beside the road, an old lady in a beautiful qipao was lying. Many people passed by, but they just glanced at her and then immediately walked away. Yu Lily felt a little angry when she saw such a scene. An old lady was lying on the side of the road, and no one went to help her. However, on second thought, she felt that this kind of mentality was normal. After all, there were many people who blackmailed people. However, Yu Lily looked at the old lady's chest up and down and felt that something was wrong. Yu Lily stepped forward, not daring to get too close. She glanced at the old lady's face and found that the old lady's face looked very ugly, a little blue and a little white. His breathing was rapid and his chest was heaving up and down. When Yu Lily saw that, she knew that something was wrong. She stepped forward, but the person next to her shouted, "Miss, don't go over. Those old men and women are very picky. What if you go over and say that it was your fault?" A middle-aged woman carrying a basket kindly reminded him. That was exactly what worried Yu Lily the most. Now Yu Lily had nothing, especially money. If she was blackmailed by this old lady again, she could really go to hell. But this old lady looked very strange. What if they really killed such an old lady because of everyone's inaction? Yu Lily didn't think she was a kind person, but when she saw the situation, she couldn't just walk away. Yu Lily looked around and said, "Auntie, if something really happens later, please testify for me." Chapter 960. Yu Lily reached out to check the old lady's breathing and found that the old lady's breathing was very weak. Suddenly, the old lady raised her hand and held Yu Lily's wrist that was checking her breathing. Yu Lily was caught off guard. Her heart skipped a beat as she looked at the old lady who had suddenly come back to life with a face full of horror. When she was about to speak, she saw that the old lady's eyes almost popped out. She struggled to open her mouth and shouted, "Help me!" Yu Lily was shocked and saw the old lady's eyes turn over and lie down. Yu Lily checked the old lady's heartbeat and found that it was still beating, but it was very weak, and her breathing was very small. Shocked, Yu Lily helped the old lady up and shouted, "Everyone help me. The old lady really can't make it. I know there is a hospital nearby. Which way to go?" "Turn left at the intersection," a woman shouted. Yu Lily carried the old lady, but no one was willing to help. Yu Lily was disappointed. When Yu Lily dragged the old lady to the hospital, she immediately sent her to the emergency room. The doctor gave the old lady's belongings to Yu Lily. Yu Lily found that the old lady was quite fashionable. The mobile phone she used was the latest model of Apple, which was the same model she was using now. Unexpectedly, there was no password. Yu Lily looked through the address book and found that all the saved names were related, such as husband, son, eldest grandson, second grandson, etc. Yu Lily directly called the old lady's son. The old lady's son's mobile phone belonged to the capital. Yu Lily felt a little surprised. The old lady's son quickly picked up. "Hello Mom, where have you been? I have been looking for you for a long time." Listening to the voice, it should be a middle-aged man with a pure northern accent. Being called mother by such a person, Yu Lily was a little embarrassed and said, "The old lady just fainted on the side of the road." However, before Yu Lily finished her words, the man on the other side had already exploded and roared, "What? Fainted?" Yu Lily was shocked by his roar and her voice suddenly stopped. A voice quickly came from the other side and asked, "Where are you now?" "I sent her to the hospital. This is the Second People's Hospital of Kingstown. The old lady is still in the emergency room." "Kingstown? How did she go to Kingstown? This old lady is too troublesome." Yu Lily was speechless. "Old woman. Is she talking about my mother? Wait a minute, I'll ask my daughter to go over. Give me your number." "What? You could have just come over. Why did you take my number?" Yu Lily had a bad feeling. "Oh girl, you have to help me save my mother first. This old lady is not very smart. When she wakes up she will definitely look for you. Leave your phone number so that I can find you." No, I don't have any money here. The doctor will ask me for medical fees later. I'd better go now. I've left everything at the front desk. Tell your daughter to come quickly." "Miss?" Yu Lily was so scared that she hung up the phone. She left everything at the front desk. The old lady had a lot of money in her wallet, enough to pay for the emergency treatment. Chapter 961. Who knew that not only the old lady's son asked for her number, but also the receptionist asked for her number, saying that it was convenient for family members to thank her. Yu Lily thought about it and wrote down the phone number. As soon as she finished writing, her phone rang. It was Editor-in-Chief Zhou. What made Yu Lily even more depressed was that it was almost 10 o'clock. That was to say, she was an hour late. Yu Lily quickly took a taxi to the company and sprinted to the company as fast as she could. When she saw it was 10 o'clock, Yu Lily wanted to cry but had no tears. Unexpectedly, "I'm late again." Yu Lily went to Editor-in-Chief Zhou's office and admitted her mistake. Her attitude was very good. Unexpectedly, when Editor-in-Chief Zhou saw her, she just sighed, stepped forward, pointed to Yu Lily's head and said, You live with Yi Chanshan now, don't you? Why are you late when Yi Chanshan is not late?" Yu Lily lowered her head and said with a guilty conscience, "I met an old lady on the way. She fainted, so I took her to the hospital." "I'm late? You actually went to do something for the sake of justice? Weren't you afraid that the other party was trying to blackmail you?" "I was afraid, but if the old lady died I would have nightmares." Editor-in-Chief Zhou looked contemptuous and said, "You said it as if it was true." "It was true? Well, I wanted to promote you to be an editor. Look at you, how can I promote you?" Editor-in-Chief Zhou sighed. "Thank you for what you did last time." Yu Lily was sure that Editor-in-Chief Zhou didn't mean to scold her. She breathed a sigh of relief and looked up. "It's okay. Pay attention next time. Don't be late again. You have to do a good job." Because of the comic love transaction, the number of downloads of our app has increased dramatically. Now Ziyu and Yi Chanshan are too busy. We need to promote another person to be an editor. When Shanyu heard about this, she has been very active recently. You have to work hard. I still favor you. Yu Lily felt a little embarrassed. She scratched her face and said, "Is this a backdoor?" Editor-in-Chief Zhou glared at her and said, "No. Go to work." "Yes." Yu Lily immediately turned and walked out. Shanyu had just returned to her seat. Yu Lily didn't know if it was an illusion, but she felt that the way Shanyu looked at her was a little weird. With a friendly smile, Yu Lily turned on the computer and started working. However, in the afternoon Yu Lily received a call. It was a cell phone number from the capital. Yu Lily guessed that it should be the old lady's family that morning. He picked up the phone. "Hello. Are you Miss Yu? The girl who used my mom's phone to call me this morning?" The voice was still the same as in the morning, but the tone was much friendlier. "Yes," Yu Lily replied. "Oh, thank you so much. The doctor said that if I were a little late, my mother would be gone. Are you free now? I'm at work. I'm a little busy. Lily looked at the tall pile of contracts and felt a little awkward. If that's the case, can you come to the hospital when you're free after work? My mom has woken up. She wants to see you. All right, then I'll get busy first. Chapter 962. Politeness was mutual. Lily was in a good mood when she heard such a tone. In the afternoon, when Lily got off work, Yi Chanshan rode her bike and told Lily that she was going to buy groceries and went back. Lily was not in a hurry to go back. Instead, she went to the hospital. After asking about the old lady's situation, Lily went to a ward. It turned out to be a VIP ward. Lily was a little shocked when she saw this. It seemed that this family was rich. In the morning she was worried that it might be a scam. She really thought too much. She knocked on the door and walked in. At a glance she saw Shin Manting standing inside. Lily was stunned. At the same time Shin Manting was also shocked and blurted out, "It's you?" In the ward, in addition to Shin Manting, there was also an old lady lying in bed. Next to her sat a middle-aged man who looked a little fat. He had a round face and a smile on his face. He wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses and his skin was a little white. At first glance, it was a classic face of a rich man. But his facial features were very regular. It was not difficult to imagine that he must have been handsome in the past. When the middle-aged man heard Shin Manting's voice, he looked up at Lily and asked, "Manting, do you know this girl?" Shin Manting put her hands in her pockets and said with some dissatisfaction, "How can I not know her? Isn't she Ming's mistress?" Mistress. These two words were filled with ridicule, contempt, disdain, and hostility. Lily's face suddenly changed and became extremely ugly. When the middle-aged man heard that, his face also changed and he turned to look at Shin Manting. Shin Manting suddenly realized that she had said something wrong and shouted, "Dad, Ming has a mistress outside? Do you want to marry this kind of man?" The middle-aged man's face became ugly, and he looked at Lily with a different look. Shin Manting stuttered and said, Enough." The old lady suddenly spoke with indescribable majesty in her voice, with a slightly low voice of warning. "No matter who he is, it is true that he saved me." While speaking, the old lady looked at Lily, and her eyes were undoubtedly much softer. She waved at her and said, "Little girl, come to me." Lily didn't look too good and her smile was a little forced. The middle-aged man, who had been polite just a moment ago, now looked at her with contempt, just like everyone else because she had called him a mistress. Lily's heart was indescribably sad. Seeing the old lady waving, she not only did not go over, but also took a step back and said, "Seeing that the old lady is fine, I am relieved. I will go back first. Goodbye." "Come here, girl." The old lady shouted, but Lily's footsteps became faster and faster. Soon she was out of the ward and out of the corridor. The old lady was a little annoyed. She patted her son and shouted, "Go and bring that girl back." "Do you want me to die of anger?" The old lady's son quickly stood up and walked out. Seeing Lily's back, he chased after her and stopped in front of her. Chapter 963. You are too polite. I am a junior. You don't have to say that to me. Lily smiled reluctantly. I still have something to do. I have to go. Miss, I'm sorry. The middle-aged man blocked her way and said with a troubled expression, "My mother seems to like you very much. If you leave now, I'm afraid my mother will break my legs. It's too dangerous." Lily saw his embarrassed look and smiled. When the middle-aged man saw her smile, he took the opportunity to act cute and said, "Do you have the heart to watch me die?" Lily looked at him and inexplicably felt that this uncle was very cute, but she still bowed her head and said, "Uncle, I also want to help you, but my identity is not suitable to appear in front of your family. Sorry, I have to go." "What identity?" "Your current identity is my mother's savior. That's a different thing, right?" The middle-aged man reached out to her and said, "My name is Shin Longyue. What's your name?" Lily. Lily reached out and gently shook his hand but soon let go. "Well, now we know each other. Let's go in." The middle-aged man looked embarrassed and begged, pointing to the road ahead. Lily looked at Shin Longyue and turned back into the ward. As soon as she entered, she saw the old lady looking at Lily. The old lady's eyes stared at Lily's face for a long time. Lily was a little scared. She subconsciously touched her face and looked at Shin Longyue behind her. Shin Longyue was also a little embarrassed. He said, "Don't be offended. My mother is more." Well, she's a fortune teller. She likes to look at other people's faces and hands. It's physiognomy and palmistry. You can ask my mother to look at it. She is very accurate. Lily had always been an atheist, but she still believed in fortune-telling and physiognomy. She didn't know if it was superstition, but she had an indescribable belief in these things. The old lady stared at Lily for a long time and said, "Girl, what is your name?" Lily. Her name is Lily. I told you, Grandma. Shin Manting sat under the stool next to the old lady and looked at Lily unhappily. Lily nodded, feeling a little strange. She was sitting face to face with her love rival in the ward of her love rival's grandmother. It was a very magical experience, even though she had broken up with Ming. Old Mrs. Shin nodded and smiled. She reached out to Lily and said, "The name is very nice, but your life is already light. With this name it will be even lighter. You should change your name. How about Shininue?" Lily was a little confused. Change my name? Changing her name the first time they met? That wasn't too good, was it? Lily felt a little strange and looked at Shinlongyue. Unexpectedly, Shinlongyue said helplessly and awkwardly, "My mother is like this. Don't mind her. Just listen to her." Chapter 964. Hearing that, Lily was stunned. Before the age of 25, I will have bad luck with my parents, husband and son? Indeed, she had no parents. As for her husband, it seemed that he didn't kill Ming, but he lost his child. Old Mrs. Shun looked at Lily with a serious face and said, "Before the age of 25, you will be very unlucky, especially after the age of 20, you will face a life and death catastrophe. If you survive, your future will be unimaginable. If I'm not wrong, you should be 24 years old now, right?" Lily was stunned, nodded and said, "Yes, that's right." "Show me your palm." Lily stretched out her left hand. Male left, female right. Then Lily stretched out her right hand. The old lady looked at Lily's palm and said, "You should have been born during the Chinese New Year, but the time of your birth was too hot. You should know that when things reach an extreme they will go in the opposite direction. So your life was shortened. Before the age of 3 you will have a big disaster. If you can survive it, you will live. After the age of 25, you will enjoy all the glory and wealth and live a happy life. You will have a son and a daughter. You will be successful in your career and have both fame and wealth. The only thing you need to do is to prevent your husband's love. You will suffer a little before the age of 25. Listening to the old lady's words, Lily subconsciously wanted to take a seat. Looking at the old lady, she felt a little magical. Shin Manting was not happy and said, "Grandma, why did you tell me a bad fortune but a good fortune for her?" Old Mrs. Shun looked at Shin Manting and said, "Everyone has their own fate. I have already told you about your fate. Grasp everything now and don't be easily shaken. No matter what trouble you encounter, don't let go. Then your life will be beautiful, otherwise." The fate of Shin Manting that old Mrs. Shen said made Lily subconsciously think of Ming. Is it to let Shin Manting hold on to Ming and not let go? No matter what kind of trouble you encounter, don't let go. Lily felt a little magical. Is it fun to be spoiled in advance? Lily didn't know, but after hearing such words she was in a very good mood. Whether it is true or not, I have survived for so long. Isn't it worth celebrating? But who is her husband? Is it Ming? It shouldn't be Ming, right? After having her life spoiled, Lily listened to old Mrs. Shun's words more attentively. The old lady seemed to like Lily very much. After talking to her for a long time she became sleepy. After coaxing old Mrs. Shun to lie down, Lily finally breathed a sigh of relief. He took out his phone to check the time. After saying goodbye to Shinlongyue he walked out. Shin Manting quickly caught up and shouted, Lily." Lily turned her head and looked at Shin Manting. Speaking of which, this was the first time she had spoken to Shin Manting face to face without knowing each other's identities. Lily stood still, faced Shin Manting and asked, "What?" "Congratulations, your luck is about to change, but I won't let go of Ming. You should give up." Shin Manting was arrogant and domineering. She crossed her arms over her chest and looked superior. Lily laughed. "Thank you, but we've already broken up." "Really?" Shin Manting asked doubtfully. "You'll break up with him?" Chapter 965. Yes, we broke up. Lily shrugged and turned to leave. "Wait a minute." Shin Manting caught up and stopped in front of Lily, saying, "I think the name my grandmother gave you is very nice." "Shininue?" Lily raised her eyebrows in surprise. Shin Manting was a little proud and nodded, saying, Yes, but I think changing a word will be more suitable for you. It's better to call it don't be lascivious. Don't be lascivious and seduce other men. How good is that? Don't cling to Oming anymore. You also heard my grandmother say that you will have another husband. It's good to let him go earlier. Hearing that, Yu Lily's eyes became cold and said, It's very good. Your modified name is very suitable for you. Keep it for yourself, Miss Lascivious. As she said that, Yu Lily walked forward, pushed her away and walked up. Shen Manting's cheeks puffed up and said, You know, my wedding date with Oming has been set. I will send you an invitation. You must come. Yu Lily's face became more and more gloomy, and she kept walking forward. The hospital was not far from the community where Yi Chanshan's house was located. Yu Lily walked for about 10 minutes to the gate of the community. It was already past 7 o'clock in the evening, and the surrounding sky was very dark. Just under the street lamp at the gate of the community, a Bentley was parked. Just next to the Bentley there was a burgundy figure, leaning. When he saw Yu Lily he straightened up and walked toward her. But Yu Lily acted as if she didn't see him, walked around him and walked forward. Suddenly a big hand took Yu Lily's hand. It was very cold. All kinds of clothes, Yu Lily could clearly feel the coldness from his hand. Looking back, his pair of peach blossom eyes with yellow street lights in his deep eyes were overflowing with love. Yu Lily's heart was slightly moved, but soon she looked away, broke his hand and did not speak. The man behind her was not willing to let go. His voice was low and hoarse as if coming from thousands of mountains and rivers. He said, Yu Lily, I miss you. Yu Lily pursed her lips, reached out to hold his wrist, looked at him and pulled him away. Then she took 2 steps back, turned around and walked quickly into the community. From the beginning to the end he did not say a word. Oming looked at her back. His heart was terribly empty and in turmoil. Such a Yu Lily was more distressing than ever. However, it was still a little short. When she got home, Yi Chanshan was watching a Korean drama with a bag of chips in her hands. When he saw Yu Lily coming back he said, I've already bought some groceries and put them in the fridge. How is old lady go? Not bad. She even read my fortune. Yu Lily changed her shoes and went to the bathroom before walking into the kitchen. Would you like some noodles? En? While watching the Korean drama, Yi Chanshan suddenly yelled, I'm stuck. The male lead is scolding the female lead. I can't take it anymore. The male lead is becoming more and more of a scumbag. Yu Lily took a pot and filled it with water. She stared blankly at the water flowing down. Can't men in Korean dramas scold women? Of course not. The female lead should be cherished and cherished. How could you scold her? Scumbag, scumbag, scumbag. What about real life? That depends on how you scold him. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.